unless it knocked off or something.
Was it? Cause you're on both Zoom and YouTube?
Well, that's the way,
It normally runs.
yeah. Well, it is, but now we've got this,
You are muted. Say something, can you?
Hear that?
Oh, yeah, well, it's delayed, right?
yeah, it is, it's delayed.
But it sounds like it's coming out of the hours.
Okay, I can hear. I think we've established it's the list. On the record that, that YouTube is working both audio and video. It's bad enough having.
It shouldn't be doing that.
No,
It's still all right. We have an in-person meeting and we have a quorum and, to proceed.
well, we're gonna,
Hopefully without having to listen to everything duplicated.
through the house.
And
And can we disable this? Can we mute the owls?
Because if we do, then I don't know
Yeah,
if they're picking up.
Maybe.
Turn the volume down.
You muted.
We should have it now.
They're still like to me.
then she had the volume all the way down.
On the owl, yes,
All right,
but the regular volume,
testing 18, 19, 20, 21,
But are you recording?
22.
well, we've been
If they can
recording
hear
full
it,
time.
question, you can't hear
Yeah.
Perfect.
it. You can't,
Okay,
okay.
November 30, 2023, the minutes.
I'll move the minutes,
Thank you.
November 30th, 2023.
All in favor?
I'm sorry, did we get a second?
Three. Oh,
Is Denise does not have board member Gardner is eligible. Are you sure he wasn't here? Denise?
I'll second.
okay,
Member Graham, thank you. Roll
And,
call.
no, it's just on,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah, those who can vote are.
can vote, just it's a voice vote, right?
Yeah, well, sure.
Okay,
Those who can vote are board member Graham, board member Simoff, and board member
roll
Walker.
call. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, understand? No. Okay. All right, so the next section is if there are any visitors here that are here because they want to talk about something that's not on the agenda, communicate to us. This is one of the two times you have to be able to speak up and say what's on your mind. If you're present, yeah. Okay, nothing. Now we are into our public hearing section. We have two on deck tonight. Both from Renewal Associates. And the first one is the Brook Road application. Which is in block 80, lot 15, dot 38. It's in the affordable housing zone 3.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, just for the record, I'm sorry, my apologies, board member Horowitz, is not participating any further, since this is a quasi judicial hearing and he is not present. So he was participating remotely for the reorganization meeting and the business meeting portion. But now for the hearing, we have the members on the dais here in person, 6 board members hearing this application, just so it's clear on the record.
And if he watches the rest of it on YouTube, then
He can,
that,
while,
does that
if
qualify?
we
for-
don't complete anything
Right,
tonight, and he qualifies himself and signs the certification and is here in person for the completion of a hearing,
And
and he can vote at that time.
okay, great. All right, so. Go right.
And while council is setting up, if I may, Mr. Chairman, just to remind the board that this matter was noticed. I found it to be properly noticed, timely noticed, timely served, and the content was sufficient. I put that on the record on November 30th. It was carried again, the first time, to December 14th without further notice, and then we carried it again on December 14th without further notice to this evening. The board continues to have jurisdiction to hear and decide the matter, and I believe we're up to applicant's counsel.
Thank you very much, Mr. Warner. Nicole Magdziak, Magdziak of the law firm Day Pippy, here this evening on behalf of the applicant. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. We are here seeking an amended preliminary and final site plan approval related to the property on Brook Road designated as in block 80, lot 15.38. Some members of the board may recall that this property did receive approval from this board by resolution October 13th, 2022 for preliminary site plan only related to the development of 26 affordable housing units. 25 of those units are intended as affordable units that would be rented to those individuals qualifying as moderate or low income. And one unit is designated as a superintendent's unit. That superintendent would be responsible for not only this property, but also 2 other potential projects, one of which is on Burns Avenue that was approved, though the resolution has not yet been adopted at the board's last meeting. So each of these 3 projects is included in the board's housing element and fair share plan pursuant to a settlement with Fair Share relating to the requirement that the borough received for affordable housing. So it's one developer that is developing 3 sites. We are filing 3 separate applications because they are 3 separate properties, but they will be operated by the same applicant. And this superintendent would be responsible for all 3 projects. So although it's 3 applications, they do work together, and they do work together not only in operation once they're constructed, but also in the plan that the borough has to provide affordable housing. So we are seeking the amended and preliminary and final approval at this time. There have been some modifications to the general layout of the site, which our engineer will speak to this evening. We also have our architect with us who will run through the actual elevations and design of the building itself. We previously received several points of relief related to that original application, one being an exception from the New Jersey site improvement or residential site improvement standards to construct less parking spaces than is required. We have modified the plan to address that with the new application, and we are seeking 2 variances, one for a front yard setback and one for the parking setback. Our engineer will point those out and explain those variances this evening. So at this point in time, I'd like to call our first witness, Kevin Shelley, who is our civil engineer.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, I'm looking at Mr. Bradley's report of August 15th. Mr. Bradley, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we would want to start with the checklist items and the request for waivers before we proceed to my further.
Yeah, those are basically the same checklist.
And actually, before we do that, my apologies, let me swear everybody in, including our board professionals. So, Mr. Shelley, Mrs. Abel, Mr. Bradley, raise your right hand. To all 3 of you, swear to God and affirm that the testimony about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Yes. Thank you all. Please continue, Mr. Bradley.
Yeah, I just pointed out 3 checklist waivers. They were same waivers that were read out before. So
I took the position that this is a continuation as an amended preliminary and final, that the waivers kind of move on. There's really no point to this stage to go through completeness. I think to complete that reason is station.
and left them in our report because I think they are conditions of the preliminary approval. So,
And those are items 4A, B, and C on page 2 of the August 15, 2023 report of Mr. Bradley.
yes.
And none have been supplied, you know, it was waived at that time, it's just carrying
For completeness, they
for
will.
completeness, but.
Yes. It's important for the board to understand that that doesn't mean you can't require additional information or things that you did waive during the course of the hearing. You feel that that information is required to make a reasonable decision,
Okay.
so you're not constrained. It's just to allow the hearing to proceed from the time the application rule applies.
So for the record, does the board grant the 3 waivers to the extent they request, to the extent they continue beyond the preliminary approval? And therefore, A, B, and C.
Who's eligible on this?
Everybody.
Everyone, is everyone? Oh, because it's new. It's
We
an
haven't started
amendment.
the hearing.
Okay, it's a new hearing, okay.
In essence, you grant those waivers once again.
Just quickly, what are they?
The requires that the contours within 100 feet of the property be shown. Properties don't, the contours of plan don't extend beyond 100 foot. Structures on abutting properties within 300 feet are not shown. And it requires the names of owners on contiguous land within 200 feet. Checklist indicates that it's been submitted, but then there's a space on the plan, but it doesn't have a list of property owners. It's a big, blank space on the plan.
We generally require it to be on the plan itself so that everyone can see
Sure,
who the neighbors are and identify potential conflicts.
so I think they've done it, it's not on the plan sheet.
And
Yeah.
on the cover sheet, I'm looking
They
at,
they've submitted the property list separately.
and the cover sheet has an aerial which shows the buildings within 200 feet.
And I don't know if the applicant's engineer, who probably wishes to get qualified and accepted as an expert, wishes to speak to any or all of these items to the extent necessary. But then you want to qualify your expert?
Sure, so, Mr. Shelley, can you please provide your name and address for the board and also your qualifications, starting with your education and background?
Sure. Kevin Shelley. I am the owner of Short Point Engineering. I am a licensed professional engineer in New Jersey since 2012. My license is currently in good standing. Our office is located at 1985 Highway 34 in Wall, New Jersey.
And you've appeared before this board, correct?
Yes, I am.
And you were accepted as an expert previously,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
We'd like to offer Mr. Shelley as an expert in engineering. Thank you.
So the 3 checklist items, again, the property owners list, typically our attorneys request that at the very end, right before the application's made for the public notices to make sure this is accurate as possible. Again, we submitted our site plans physically to the town before that list was done. We have no issues adding it to the plans as a condition. And again, the other 2 checklist items about topography, 100 feet beyond the property lines, as well as structures 300 feet beyond. We will add those to the plans as well to update our background information.
Okay.
Are you
Whatever the
comfortable?
exact terms were used.
So
You're stipulating, yeah.
And then, Mr. Bradley, you don't have any objection to the board hearing the application if they feel comfortable without these items at this time?
No, the only concern I think we mentioned was, I guess, in the northeast corner, where we have the high retaining wall,
Right,
where the structures are on that adjacent. So they'll need to be shown.
right.
And is that something the applicant can address perhaps in the testimony?
Yes.
Does the board wish to grant once again, the 3 waivers so that the applicant can proceed presenting the application?
almost we will accept the 3 waivers.
I'll second.
And a voice vote is fine.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Waivers granted.
Just like, I can see. Not aye.
You have 2 opposed.
I'm opposed. Only because
Opposed or abstained?
abstain.
And who else?
One opposed, then.
You're opposed? Okay.
It carries, all right. Okay, back on track.
So Mr. Shelley, we do have an exhibit here with us this evening, which we can mark as A1.
I have two exhibits. A1 is a colored rendering of the rendering that was presented at the time of the preliminary site plan application prepared by my office. It's dated August 5th, 2022. And then I have a second rendering of the updated site, colored rendering. We can mark as exhibit A2, which is dated December 14th, 2023.
And what's the second color rendering of?
It's the current plans that are submitted to the board.
So just color render of the plan that you
Yes,
submitted.
correct.
Okay, and then the A1 was a color rendering of,
The preliminary approval of the plans.
okay.
Are you able to give me screen sharing abilities?
You have the ability now.
Yeah, is that yes, Denise? Down there in the middle?
Yes, there we go. Thank you.
So Kevin, while you're pulling this up, can you start just with a very brief overview orienting the board to where this site is located? And some of the existing surrounding conditions which are shown in the aerial.
Zoom in to make sure you all see it. Okay, again, subject property is located on the northern side of Brook Road, across the street here from the municipal building, the police headquarters. It's approximately 1.3 acres in size, and rectangularly shaped. Parcel is currently wooded with a cleared gravel area that is currently being used as construction staging for various projects over the past several years. Project is located in the affordable housing AH3 zoning district. And again, the application that received preliminary approval was for a 3-story, 2 stories of residential over parking affordable housing project. 25 of the units are affordable. We're 1 superintendent's unit. Again, there's parking located underneath the building as well as adjacent on the left side of the plan. During the hearing, during the preliminary hearing, there was 2 concerns expressed to us. One was the front patio area, which overlooks the municipal treatment facility across the street. Recommendations were, let's eliminate that. Let's push the community space to back behind the building, toward the rear of the building. And Mr. Brightly also had concerns regarding the retaining wall that's shown on the perimeter of the plans. The height of the retaining wall was 35 feet in height at the highest point. And on the top of the plan here, the retaining wall was located in pretty close proximity to the adjacent property. And Mr. Brightly had concerns about the viability of us constructing that retaining wall. So during the preliminary hearing, we expressed to the board that we believe we can make some changes to the design by 1, eliminating this front patio area overlooking the treatment facility, relocating the community space back towards the back of the building, and then shifting the building forward and a little bit closer to the west here, to the left of the plan view, to get some more separation for this retaining wall from the adjacent property line, as well as pulling it forward enough into the site so that we're not building as much into the steep slope that exists there now. Again, there's a cleared area in the front of the site, and the area in the back here, it slopes up substantially. So in order to construct this site, a retaining wall is needed across the MAC on the right side and a portion of the front. So we have said that we were going to shift it forward and over in order to lower the wall as well as relocate the community space. So shifting to exhibit A2. Again, there's a colored site rendering of the plans that are presented to the board now. Plan looks substantially similar with the exception of that front patio area has been removed and the building has been shifted forward. And the building has also been shifted further, so the plan left view and this retaining wall was reduced from 35 feet maximum height down to 21.5. So the items that we had expressed to the board that we would be able to accomplish as part of a plan amendment, I believe we've satisfied those, we say promises during that preliminary hearing when we asked for preliminary approval. What ends up happening is by taking the building and sliding it forward, it does trigger a front yard variance setback, variance, where 35 feet is required from Brook Road and 16.6 feet is proposed. I want to note, I think you can see on the plans here, just with the amount of green that's on there, this black line that runs across here is the actual right of way, the property line. Although the building is only 16.6 feet from the property line, it's more than 40 feet from the building to the actual roadway of Brook Road. So again, it's a variance that we require. 35 feet is what is in the AH3 zoning district, and 16.6 is what is proposed. But again, the building is more than 40 feet back from the roadway. Anybody driving along Brook Road, the building is not going to be located right up on the roadway. It is going to be set back substantially far enough back for what is appropriate for the area. And what it does is it allows us to reduce the height of that retaining wall substantially. The maximum height is now 14 feet lower than previously proposed. And the majority of the wall is only about 15 foot in height. You're only running into the area where it exceeds 20 feet back in this corner.
That's a question.
Sure.
Have you considered making the rear property off of the building, the wall?
Making the building the wall, there's ventilation issues for the garage. You know, we have the parking on the ground floor as well as the residential units above it. There needs to be certain restrictions or open space along the wall for the parking area. And by this wall from there, and we were using the building to retain that soil, it would be up against, especially over in this area, that would be up above the first floor units.
Or a partial portion of the wall?
I don't think it's viable to use the building as part of that aspect. The wall, again, there's no constraints or area concerns with constructing the wall in the rear of the building. It's around the side and at this peak height.
Well, that's what I'm saying, on the west, on the north side, going from the western property line, you make, those walls are shorter. The garage is what, 8 feet, 10 feet?
Right.
So couldn't you use the wall? Couldn't you substitute the building for the wall where it's less than 10 feet or 12 feet? You say most of it's 15 feet high.
Yeah, most of the wall back behind the building and around the side is 15 foot in height. The very end portions, maybe when it gets down to where the parking area is, again, the parking area is lower than the retaining wall. So the wall is needed to hold back that area for parking. I don't think it's viable to incorporate the building as part of the wall.
Do you have a cross section of the property?
Cross section of the property?
Well, cross section showing the first floor of the wall and the cross section of the property.
No, we have a elevation of the building that the architect can present, but I don't know if they have necessarily a rendering or a cross section showing the retaining wall
Would be part of the engineering.
of a cross section of the building.
Cross section of the property, showing the height of the wall, the height of the building.
We have a grading plan that was submitted as part of the application that shows the height of the wall. Again, these are the site plans that were submitted as part of the application.
That's what I'm saying. You don't have a cut. You don't show a cross section.
No, we did not create a separate cross section to show the wall in relation to the building.
And Mr. Shelley, the current location of the building also respects the setback requirements, correct? So it's compliant with the setbacks that the ordinance requires us to have.
With the exception of the front yard setback.
Correct, but in that rear portion of the
Correct.
building where they're proposing that maybe we could use it as part of the wall.
Yes, the building complies with it, and
The building surely meets the rear setback.
If it's something you just said, yes.
Yeah.
So if you make the wall, of the building, the equivalent or portion of it, the retaining wall, then you wouldn't have the front yard setback issue.
no, if you slide
If you slide the building back.
20 feet. That was the whole reason why, and that was part of the hearing, was the board was, during the preliminary hearing, the feedback from the board was that they were agreeable to a front yard setback variance if it meant that the height of the wall could be reduced and the project would be viable.
But what I'm asking is, did you look at alternatives?
If the alternative is, that you're suggesting is that we push the building 20 feet further back, that's not,
And substitute the wall for a portion of the building.
but you're talking about a portion of the wall that's over in this area. That's, if I push this building 20 feet back, it puts this corner of the building much further into that slope, and that, now the height of the wall goes back up to 30 feet.
If you push it back and you use it as the retaining wall, the first floor apartments would be underground.
In this corner, yes, maybe there's a
Right.
small portion in the very, let's say, northwest corner that would
When
be all
you
right.
get down to the stairs that go
Yes.
up to the, you're right, but for the rest of it going to the west,
It would be underground.
east, everything
Well,
is
clearly
clearly
the garage
underground.
would be buried.
Well, the garage is already, it's 363.5 is your floor elevation.
And this is 384 at the top of the wall. So again, this is
Your
20
outside
feet above.
elevation is a foot lower.
Yes.
So if you pushed it back and used it as the wall, it would be underground. So you wouldn't be able to have windows in those apartments.
Well, I'm asking if that alternative is looked at.
Yeah, we've looked at all the alternatives, which is why the retaining wall remains around the entire perimeter.
I guess, I have a question pertaining to that.
Sure.
One of the options, one of the things that you said that you addressed was that front patio, you gave some other space.
The community space was relocated from the front of the building to the rear of the building now. So if we go through the floor plans.
Okay, so the exterior community space is now interior community space?
The exterior patio was eliminated
Yes. from
looking out over, and the community space was relocated from the front of the building to the back.
So the community space that you're giving this affordable housing program is 10 foot by 150 feet wide?
Our architect can go through what the square footage of that community space is internal to the building.
It's internal.
Internal.
Okay, yeah, no, that's,
internal before, it's just that there was.
right, that's what my question first was that, and you keep saying that it was to the back of the building.
I'm sorry, we need one at a, board members, we need one at a time, question and answer, not dialogue amongst many separate groups of people.
So the
For
external
this hearing.
space was put inside. The external community space.
An equivalent area from what was external was not relocated inside. The external space was eliminated and the internal community space was moved from the front to the back.
Okay.
Well, like the patio,
The patio, there is no
There is
patio.
no patio.
and that equivalent space has been eliminated.
Correct.
Okay, and then. Again, with the retaining wall, with your two apartments on the right-hand corner here. They're about 10 foot off of that retaining wall. That retaining wall's between 15 and 20 feet tall.
Correct.
So basically, your bedroom windows and your living room windows in those two apartments would be looking at a retaining wall 15 feet high, 10 feet away.
Yes.
Can you put up the two diagrams you had before?
Sure.
The before, the original and the revised, and I'm interested in the distance,
I'm gonna do is I'm gonna zoom out so you can fully see,
that one, and
and then
then
when I switch back and forth,
it looks like you've created more green space between the building and the sidewalk. And so I'm wondering, okay, green space is nice, but could you have brought the wall further south? In other words, and maybe it's an optical. To me, it looks like there's more green space.
No,
now.
so again, now
Maybe
I
that's
can
not
zoom in.
green space.
I can zoom in again. Behind the building where we have the walkway, and I think you're noting that there is green space here.
There's more than there was.
The wall in this section, and again, I can flip to our grading plan. The wall in that section is only about 3 foot high in here.
Okay,
Right in there, it's about 3 foot high. As it gets to the corner,
it gets really,
we're about 11 feet. Now, you can see.
it's not 8 feet. I mean, if it was 8 feet, you could like bring in a little
No.
lower, but it's 3 feet.
So we still have a door to get in through here.
Yeah.
If this sidewalk comes in a little bit further, again, this wall, again, majority of this wall is only 3-4 feet.
Curve it.
As we get up to here, the wall starts to get higher as we climb into this corner of the site.
It doesn't have to be a squared off. You could have curved that sidewalk, right? You could have marked it.
If, again, there's a path, if the sidewalk's brought closer to the building for this wall to come back a little bit. Again, that's not the biggest portion of the wall, that would be in the back corner in here. But again, we can try to pull this in a little more to minimize
That
that.
is aesthetically, right, I'm just pointing it out, and it looks like you've added a couple bump outs in the lower left corner there, which I guess is where the community center may be going, I don't know.
Correct, as we go through the floor plans, you'll see
With
that.
Hallways or entrance ways or something, right?
Correct.
Those are the covered porches, correct?
Correct, yeah, as Joaquin goes through the architectural plans, you'll see that the space in that corner of the building and what those exits and entrances are for.
Look like, okay, there's something there.
Yes,
No, but Mark's point was that you're looking at, well, I think you ought to produce a cross section, maybe 2 or 3 cross sections, so we know what the impact of the wall is to the impact of the building.
okay,
I personally think the two-dimensional plan is giving you a false sense that that's not a tunnel that you're looking at when you turn that corner and you walk down that way, or when you look out of those windows on those corner units, that you're basically you're in a city block, you're 10 foot from a solid concrete wall, which is an apartment I would want to, well, take a look at.
Except that you're on the second floor. You're
No,
on
the first floor.
No, the first floor is the garage. The second floor, you're on the second floor.
The second floor is grading with that. With
The
that
second
wall.
floor, the point is, the wall's 21 feet high, right? So there's a garage. That's above grade, right? The garage.
so in this corner, from a grade perspective, you have 2 floors, the garage is entirely buried. The
It
grade,
is very.
this grass area is, a foot below the finished floor of the building, and then the
Okay.
retaining wall goes 20 feet in the air in this corner.
Alright.
Again, we're not trying to, mask the fact that there's a retaining wall.
No, I'm not accusing you of trying to. What you're showing isn't a clear depiction of what's there. And again, I think you're creating this dark alley. I mean, the sun's coming up over here and it's rotating around the building. You might get some sun in that corner on a like a summer morning, but the rest of the day, that is gonna be completely dark. Because the sun is gonna set, it's not even gonna be past the building on this side. So you're gonna get no sun along that whole side. You won't get sun anyway, because it's the north side, but it's gonna be a dark alley.
It's one of this retaining wall, in order to construct, required 26 affordable housing units on this site that has substantial grading issues. This is the only viable path to be able to construct those units.
It couldn't be stepped, or it couldn't be,
The retaining wall stepped.
yeah,
Stepping the retaining wall would require further disturbance back into the slope. And again, that wall was pulled back from the property line forward towards the street in order to bring the height down to make the construction of it more viable to begin with. The stepping the wall would require, again, I'll kind of pull back a little bit further in the plan, additional retaining walls beyond it further disturbance up that steep slope. I mean, if we could design this so that the wall was less than 10 foot in height, I'd love to. There's just substantial grade change coming up on that portion of the site. In order to fit the building.
What's the building height requirement?
I believe it's 40 feet.
So if the garage is buried, couldn't we have 3 stories there?
If 3 stories and 40 feet is what's required by,
Yeah, what I'm saying is it wouldn't be a constant. It wouldn't be constant, 3 stories on, or,
John can tell you it's kind of based on the overall building, the height.
I'm just saying there could be some, some development or some, plan developments that would be creative in addressing some of these issues, because we see some problems, what Mark was just talking about. And where I'm, the height of the wall, and then the other question I have is, what about the walkway to there's a trail, there's a walkway through this property that goes back from Brook Road up the hill.
right? So
Let's cover that
Yeah, that's
a little
what I'm saying.
later. On this topic, though. The vestigial, I think, the green indents on the front of the building. Are there doors there? Or is that an
Yeah,
architectural?
I can let our architect walk through the floor plans
A
on what's.
thought would be instead have flatten that, it'll be articulated or whatever, but flatten it and use that space in the back corner, release the back corner, not from the parking.
Try to pull it back.
But pull the units back and recover the space for the units in those green areas, because it would be 2 floors. I don't know the purpose of the green area, so. Just a thought, and then that would at least pull the units back from, away from the, wall. But that back corner, where it's 2 rooms, then it doesn't solve all, but at least it opens it up. And there could even be a, tree or, something back there that's distracting. Just a thought.
Okay, yeah, we certainly can take a look at that and see what we can do to.
Yeah, I just don't
Yeah,
remember
pull
what
those.
those green spots were.
We understand the concerns with the windows and looking out at the retaining wall. It's,
Yeah, improve the experience, basically.
I,
That's the one. It's not a problem.
If I remember correctly, they were just architectural features that.
I'm sorry, board members, can all the board members speak to the audience so everyone can hear what is being said?
Okay. I recall that those bump outs and the bump ins were architectural features. I'm sure your architect will address that.
yes, he
And
can walk you
that's
through
what I
the features.
recall from the original.
Yeah. Okay, as Tom mentioned, well, you have your list of items you wanted to go through, right? So we should let you complete your list.
Yeah, there's only a handful of other items on here. Again, not much has changed besides shifting the building and the geometry bit. We still have outside parking spaces, and parking underneath the building. Total of 47, spaces are proposed and 46 are required. We meet the borough's electric vehicle parking ordinance. We have an exterior trash enclosure. Inside the building are trash compactor rooms where trash will be collected, brought out by the on-site superintendent, put into the enclosure. Again, since it is compacted, they'll be put in wheelable totes with lids so that they can be wheeled out into the enclosure. The enclosure does not have a roof structure, again, because the wheeled dumpsters have lids on them, so there is no concerns for leaking or spilling out into the roadway.
There was a proposal, since you're on the dumpster, I need to require. K turns, turn ratios, there was a suggestion that your contracted trash vendor would be able to pull into the driveway entrance with enough clearance overhead to be able to do a K-turn.
Yep.
To back into the dumpster area I'm pretty sure that was part of the discussion.
Yes, that's part of the discussion. That was my next bullet item.
Oh,
Again,
sorry.
oh, you set me up perfectly. The trash vehicle will pull in, the access to the, ground floor parking area is located here right across this crosswalk. It's uncontrolled. There's no gate. There's no key card swipe to get in. It's open. The vertical clearance is large enough for a trash vehicle to be able to pull in head on, grab the trash recycling back into the garage area and pull out, or vice versa, be able to pull into the garage area, back up to the enclosure if it's a rear loading vehicle, and to be able to pull out.
So it's important to have defined the heights.
Absolutely.
That you just said no problem with. And yeah, you can hire a trash service with 9-foot vehicles, you know.
And what is the height of it?
What is the clearance there,
But again, our architect can walk you through when he shows you that
Okay.
cross section of what that
But
clearance
you
is.
don't know.
cover it.
I don't have the clearance on there, but no, we've coordinated between the floor elevations that there's, I believe there is at least 9 feet of clearance there.
I'd like to make one point, it's a different topic, but related to setback. One of the concepts related to setback is what does the streetscape look like? And I think you have a supporting case in a way, because this is subjective, that your neighbor to the west. I think your proposed front wall is pretty much the same as that building to the west. It's hard to tell, but you sort of have a piece of it there. You see
Zoomed out too far, but yes, the front of that adjacent building is more or less in line with the
a
front.
lot. So it's something to notice. It's something to help suggest that the setback is okay. Just thought I'd mention it, that's all. We should come back to the path. That was definitely something that required quite a bit more research as far as I knew, because you were gonna contact your neighbor and you were gonna. So what did you come up with regard to access to the property to the rear view?
So the main component, I guess, of the walkway is our discussions, again, had reached that the borough was looking into alternative locations. I don't have anything concrete to report back regarding any progress the borough has made regarding access from a different property. Again, I think at the preliminary hearing, we talked to, or again, we kind of showed through the topography of the site. Again, I'm just gonna switch to a copy of the survey. I know that there's some signage back at where the tree line is right now. Again, this is the large cleared gravel area. I mean, I'm not sure
So
where
you're
this,
saying it's the borough's responsibility as the sponsors of this, basically, in conveying the property. It's the borough's responsibility to figure out what they're gonna do with the trail.
So we've been in touch with, Mr. Pigeon, the borough's attorney, and he has been, he's aware of this issue and has been working on it as far as we know with the borough. And our position is that because it's the borough trail, it's the borough's responsibility to let us know how it's gonna be handled. And then we, of course, to the extent we need to grant easement or have easements granted or allow for that to happen on the property, we'll do that. But we are not in direct communication with neighbors related to that. Mr. Pigeon has taken that on.
That's a problem.
Well, there is if I may, Chairman,
But
the preliminary approval had a condition number 32. I can quickly read it, if it helps the board, refresh your recollection, but not too quickly, because it's a little.
don't turn a page. Huh?
But the applicant shall work in good faith with the borough engineer as to how access to the Round Top Laurelwood Trail can be maintained. Presently, the trailhead meets the existing gravel parking area, approximately in the middle of the lot where the unlabeled sign symbol is shown on sheet 2. While users of this trail can presently park in the gravel lot, the borough may need to consider if the medical office would allow off-hour parking, a new trailhead may be possible through the grass strip between the medical building parking area and the 7 exterior parking spaces proposed on the plan. An access easement for the trail may be required, and the applicant shall pursue same if necessary with the Borough Council. That is the existing condition of approval with respect to the preliminary approval. In essence, given,
There were really two aspects to it in summary. One was access and all the consequences to that. And the other one was parking. And with the considerations about that. But it sounds like you haven't been received results from Jack. Now, maybe it was the engineer or Jack, but Jack should have been giving you guidance.
has there been any, if I may, Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
Has there been anything formal with respect, by way of request, with respect to the governing body, or has this all been communication with council and others?
This has been communication with council and others, but primarily with Mr. Pigeon in order to determine what the borough's plan was for.
And it's an ongoing process consistent with condition number 32?
Yes, we've been in communication as recently as just prior to the last hearing, and we have not received any further feedback from Mr. Pigeon or the borough related to our inquiry as to the status of the relocation and access.
And at a minimum, the applicant recognizes the obligation to continue to pursue in good faith both the access and parking pursuant to condition number 32.
Yes,
Well, I have a question.
It's up to the board where it goes from there.
If you were going to maintain this access on your property, how would you do
Again, if the borough's plan was that access needed to get maintained through an affordable housing site, there's, again, a path would be coming along the property here.
it? You'd have to climb over the wall?
There would have to be measures taken into account.
Steps.
Again, as we indicated in the conditions of the preliminary approval, if that was the case and that was the plan, there would have to be measures taken to build steps into that wall to provide it. We just don't have any direction from the borough as to a relocation of that trail or what the preferred method here is.
And can I ask what you did to approach the borough? You said you contacted Jack Pigeon.
so he is the counsel for the borough.
Yeah, I'm aware of that.
Right, so we've been communicating with him as attorney for the applicant and attorney for the borough council. And
Have you submitted any drawings or any sketches or any concepts?
no, we've requested information and direction from him as to what the borough's plan was for the trail. And the last communication that we had, he was going to communicate directly with the borough. And then we had offered, if we want to have a meeting so we can sit down with the borough engineer and discuss this, or whoever needs to attend in order to discuss this. Because the applicant is certainly willing to accommodate the plan that the borough has for this trail. We just don't have direction on what that plan is.
I see Bob Riley is.
One of the problems is that the original plan, I think there was a 10-foot grass strip between the property line and the parking lot, and that's been narrowed down to 5. And it's also, a 2-to-1 or 3-to-1 slope to make that grading between the two property lines, between the property line and the parking. So this plan, I think, makes that not feasible to have a trail from,
Well, on that side of the building, right?
on that side of the building. Well,
Is that
There's
the west side?
a little retaining wall there too, I think.
if there was going to be a sidewalk on Brook Road at some point, at least there was an ability to access the trail through that grass strip. I believe that's gone now.
Or we could go through the valley of darkness on the east side of the building. So,
I mean, at least I think that retaining wall opposite the lobby door and the door to the amenity space is only about 4 feet high.
right,
So they could clearly put an opening in that.
It could be an exercise station. You got a hurdle wall. Yes, it's possible. It sounds like there's a miss here. When was the last, do you know when the last time, Jack gave you any communication on this particular item?
We received a response just before our December 14th meeting that he was still looking into it and would get back to us, and we do not have further direction on
And
what
the
that.
holidays and everything. But it
So
sounds
the
like,
applicant is committed to working on this, we just, at this point, don't have the correct direction to.
yeah, and
do
it
that.
impacts your plan. You know, you optimize your plan, and if someone says, well, sorry, now there's an easement here. That's part of the property that's deeded over. It's like, okay, now how does that impact your plan?
I have a question. Who owns the property? Has the property been transferred?
No, it has not.
So the borough still owns it.
Correct, yes.
So if the borough wanted to protect their easement and say, now it's your job to figure out how to do it, how would you do it?
Again, if that's the path that the borough directs us to go down, is to maintain the access to the trail from our site. And we would put an opening in the 3-4 foot section of the retaining wall back behind the building to provide steps up to the point where the current signage is now. I don't think that's a great solution.
So hypothetically, the borough might say, well, we'll have the trail users park on the side of 202 frontage, right? And because that was part of the issue, and they would walk up your driveway and go on the sidewalk over to these theoretical, the steps. I'm just brainstorming, but that would be your first answer to how you would handle that expectation. It would be an access easement, not a building easement or any, you know, so you could be something like they could use your driveway.
Correct. And where would you conceptually put the break in the wall?
Again, in the section of the wall that is only 3 to 4 foot in height at the location of the existing sign that's there now of where the trail is.
I just noticed there is a sign on the western edge of the property by the road. Isn't there?
There's one that says do not litter, that kind of a thing. It's like, this is, I believe, this is like town property, don't do this. I believe.
No, but I believe there was a sign from
On the street,
near the street on the western side of the property.
Regarding the trail.
Yes.
it sounds like Jack has to, I mean, with your revised plans and in front of him, this is what we'd like to do. It sounds like it's his responsibility to get
The governing
body.
no doubt will continue to be
What they're
involved
gonna do.
and if I understand the testimony correctly from the engineer, even if the borough wishes to maintain its easement, the project with a trailhead and access is feasible.
Yes.
No, it's a good news. It's just, we need to be covered.
So, but we had this assignment for 6-8 months. And you have no resolution. When were these plans drafted?
This one?
Yeah,
The revised site plans were submitted back to the borough in June.
so, and the date of the resolution? The date of the first preliminary.
So that precedes, so that goes back to last summer, October of 2022, if I recall.
Yeah.
I have it right here.
Yeah, it's the end of 23.
So you had almost a year. Oh, really? Yeah, to resolve the issue, and you haven't done anything.
Again, our testimony is we requested the assistance from the borough and the borough's council to
In
provide
December.
that. There's been more than just one
Well,
email
no, that
that's
was
been
the
sent.
last time that they got and communication with Jack. So,
Have you been, if I may, Mr. Chairman, have you been, making requests, of the borough, since the revised plans post the preliminary approval resolution that was adopted in October of 2022?
Yes,
and the last one was in
The
December.
last one was in December, correct?
So it's is your contention that the applicant has continued to work in good faith with the borough with respect to trying to drive that access and parking in order to maintain the trailhead and the trail?
Yes.
But when you draft the site plan, wouldn't you did not submit any concepts, is that correct?
Again, at the time that the plans were prepared, the direction from the borough was they were investigating relocating the improvements or the trailhead to the adjacent property.
To the medical building?
Which is unfathomable,
Yes.
even though it may be true. I'm just saying,
Yeah,
come on.
we're trying to do,
Rural property here.
No, but my question is, did you submit any concepts or any requests for locating the easement?
Did you give any guidance what you,
Did you submit anything that said what you would want?
no, there's no proposed plans for us showing where we would relocate the borough trail. I don't think having it run through this private development and trying to have residents walking through here to access the trail makes much sense. If that's the direction from the borough, that's where the trailhead needs to be maintained due to lack of other options, then that's what we would agree to comply with. And it's simply by adding an opening in the retaining wall to provide steps and
yeah, the
access.
good news is the retaining wall's low enough for you.
Yes,
Options.
it's
But
not-
You've already answered the question, it's feasible, but you're just not gonna unilaterally say it's there because you agreed that the borough was gonna let you know.
No, but when you draft the plan, shouldn't you include a concept? You never submitted a concept of where the trail should be. Maybe your concept would be the trail should be on the adjacent property, but shouldn't you have submitted some sort of concept when you draft the plan, because you just can't ignore it?
But again, I don't think we're ignoring it. I think we're following the borough's direction that the borough was going to tell us where they wanted the trail to be relocated to.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, the borough, as we all know, by way of refresher, executed a settlement agreement with respect to fair share and its Mount Laurel obligations in the Affordable Housing Declaratory Judgment Action. This was part of it, the three scattered sites. Then adopted a housing element fair share plan and rezoning ordinances, including rezoning ordinance for this site. The borough owns the property, and the borough is in the process of, together with the applicant, deciding what the borough council wishes to do with respect to the trail. And if it's going to be maintained, if it's going to be maintained, and how it's going to be accessed, and where the parking is going
You're
to be accessed.
hypothesizing right now.
Pardon me?
You're hypothesizing right now.
No, I think we
You
just have
understand
testimony.
the accountability.
We have testimony that this is occurring, but where I'm going is that the planning board, as we know, has certain jurisdiction, the scope of which ends at a certain point, and then it begins for the borough, the council, the governing bodies jurisdiction. I think this is in the governing body's jurisdiction with respect, so long as it's a feasible proposal for the planning board, it's for the governing body to decide ultimately.
We've
is
already
the trail
said it's
gonna
not
continue-
feasible.
Pardon me?
We've already said in our preliminary thing that it was not feasible. This was
I
an
think the-
outstanding item.
I think the applicant said that there is at least one way in which it is feasible.
Then why
But
didn't
we
they show
can't-
it?
The good news is yes, what you just said. That's the good news. They're saying, look, let us know what we have to do. Please let us know.
Right.
And the borough has not done that.
Well,
And it
I don't
is
think
the
we want to,
responsibility
I think
to
what
do
the
it.
planning, what my legal advice to the planning board is that as long as the applicant has established that there is a feasible way in order to derive access, notwithstanding the fact that at least theoretically, the borough can decide to abandon the trail. But assuming the trail exists, continues, there has been a demonstration, apparently, engineers can help us here and tell us whether it's viable or not, that there is access and parking. What I want to make sure the board does not do, is delve into the area where it's the governing body's authority to decide with respect to this property, whether the trail continues, and if so, how, together with the developer, if there will be access and parking for that. This board's authority essentially ends with it's feasible. And then, how it happens and when it happens,
Well, we
essentially is
said
the province of the governing body.
No, but you just heard from Bob Rightly that when they changed the site plan, they reduced the buffer between the property on the west.
But I think I heard wrong about, they could cut a hole in the wall and they could have
No,
access.
no, the west.
The west side, they could, I think it was mentioned from the board that they potentially could walk along the sidewalk that's on the west side of the building, up the steps, and then through the new proposed opening in the wall.
Oh, I think it's feasible. I'm not denying it's feasible. This was a to-do.
Yeah, see,
And
there is
it needs to get resolved. Because I'm only sitting here saying, oh, well, we're getting rid of trails, you know, and it's just, it's not our problem. That's the
I think it's
council's problem.
appropriate for the board to consider it as a condition of approval, if there's an approval.
Condition what?
Shouldn't the plan have a concept of where it should be?
If the governing body, and we have an engineer and planner who can speak to this as well, but if the governing body is in the process with the developer of deciding how to do this, I don't know how viable it is to pick an option. And say maybe this will be it, or maybe this won't be it, but here it is, and I think we just heard one that
We've
was
reduced the
testified
options
to as feasible.
by shifting it and agreeing to it, and I'm saying it's a bad idea. Just saying, it has cut one of the options out that the council could be considering.
And it's left at least one, if not more, in, is that
One left.
correct, Mr. Engineer?
Correct, there's a viable path on site as well as elsewhere or other.
And Mr. Brightly, would you agree with his answer or not?
I would agree with Chairman's answer, that one of them, probably the preferable one, in my opinion, has been eliminated, which would be to separate it so that anyone using the trail is not walking on the sidewalk that's owned and maintained by.
Or in the driveway or whatever, so.
And is the less preferable of the two that were offered, there's still viable?
Well, again, like you mentioned, there's no gates, there's nothing that's going to stop anybody from doing it, they are all private property.
Then there's cross liability.
And it's within the province of the governing body, that's my only point. It's the planning board. If the planning board is saying you have to have this resolved before we hear and decide the application for site plan approval, that might be problematic, is what I'm saying, that's all.
It might be. It might not be.
But they've had a year to work on
They've
it.
had lots of time to work. And I would agree that if they left, I don't have a problem, I like the revised drawings. If they left the strip, as Bob said, if they left the strip on the west edge, and that was the easement, and then the town decided to move the trailhead to that easement, which they can do unilaterally, then it would be a straight shot in, and then at least access to the trailhead would be fine.
So I guess the
Parking is
question-
another issue.
that's a question to the applicant, whether they can do that for access, correct, Mr. Chairman?
Well, they dealt with some optimizations here, right? And one of the optimizations was shifting the building to the west. Okay, and that cuts out the optimum easement position.
And as
When they
Bob,
do it.
and as Bob Riley says, it's the best location for it.
They also pull the building forward, so I guess the question is if you only pull the building forward and not shift it to the west, what does that do to the wall?
The wall's height would increase
Is that
slightly. Is it still viable to build? Yes, I don't.
It would probably be somewhere between the 35 and the 21.5.
And what we're requesting here is, again, there's a design waiver that I can get into about the parking's location to the property line. If that waiver was granted and then we were able to work with the borough to shift everything back over by 5 feet to maintain a 10-foot easement along there, it wouldn't be in conflict with any type of approval that would be granted. It would be lessening those and
Right.
not eliminating those. The variance we're requesting with a close proximity to the front setback, shifting it back further to the right just makes it a little more challenging for us to build that wall. Can we still build it? I'm confident we can find a way to build it. The wall height in certain areas make it a little bit higher, but if that's the direction from the borough, that it needs to get maintained along this property line, I don't think that conflicts with anything that we are presenting here. We wouldn't be able to say it's gonna be 10 and move it over to 5 without coming back and asking for variance relief.
You gotta do the math, yeah. Well,
I'm bothered because we rushed to give you a site plan approval so that you could finance the project to get in time for financing and say, we'll resolve all these other issues when we come back. And you came back and you haven't resolved the issues right there in the resolution. And and nothing's been done.
it's collaborative, we understand. Like, the key is that the issue didn't get resolved in that amount of time. I appreciate the flexibility, and you're right, you can say, look, well, you know, if we shifted it back, then we wouldn't have to seek relief in another way. You know, there's
That's
a
the
plus
same-
and a minus to it, that's fine.
And that's the same argument you made, because you said we have to have this approval by a certain date. And that's why we granted approval with all these conditions. And then a year later, we're still saying, well, we'll work the condition out.
I think we've provided as much testimony as we can on our good faith efforts that we've been working on since that resolution to try to resolve the matter. We're still presenting viable options on our site as well as any other options the borough comes up with for anything off-site. I think that's as much as we can do, or as much as I can say about what we've done between the preliminary hearing and now.
I don't think it's their fault.
But,
I don't think it's their fault, in my opinion.
well,
I think we know where the fault was.
but I would suggest that you should have, that when you draft a site plan, that you put this concept of where you would like it to be on your property. If you're gonna, you know, if you were gonna put, just take a wild example, you're gonna put it in the middle of the building, show it. And show it to the borough and say, this is what we wanna do. You can, you know, do you agree or disagree, where you put the decision on the borough based on a plan that you initiate, because you're doing the site plan, you're developing the property. And you never did that.
You get first strike at it, that basically. So, and once again, that's part A, part B, the parking, you can take a different line on, you can say, no. Borough, you're gonna have to figure out parking, you know, put something over next to the treatment facility or change the way that's configured and deal with the parking that way, so. But I agree, you should. You have the capability to lay out what you think the solution should be. And that's a hell of a lot easier.
It wasn't gonna go away just because the borough doesn't answer.
Again, we're not making any efforts to make it go away. We're presenting the information that we have.
Yeah.
We still have viable options. We just need some direction.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, can the applicant do one or more concept plans with one or more options that the applicant feels is feasible? Including, the one that our board engineer has indicated would be the preferable option? Are those plans that could be put together and submitted to the borough?
Sure.
Can someone put pressure on the borough?
To what?
Can someone put pressure on the borough to get back to them?
I imagine
Yeah,
I'm sorry, there shouldn't be conversations among board members. If any board member has a question,
Yeah,
Submit your plan.
they should be recognized by the chair and then speak.
I would suggest you submit the concept and give them a date certain that you need an answer. Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, so I just want, it looks, I mean, I'm just scaling off the plan, and it can be confirmed, but if this building were to shift 5 feet back to the east, it looks like the wall might get 2.5 feet higher. It gets closer to the property line, so it might be different, you know, construction method. I don't think it's gonna make that much of a difference.
in the dicey bits part.
But the biggest
20.
improvement was bringing the building forward the lower wall, not so much shifting it to the west.
Right.
One of the other,
So I would say if you can keep the 10 feet that we had before, it's not gonna impact the wall that much. It's 21.5 to 23 or 24.
right, one of the other aspects of shifting the building towards the west, towards the side, was also the driveway location and the feedback about the proximity to the crest of Brook Road. And again, the preface that pushing that driveway entrance as far away from that crest to give the best line of sight was the best option. It's very similar to, again, the other application that we have for the other site on Erie Road, but is putting that driveway as far away from a potential site issue was the plan. The plan has been submitted to NJDOT for comments. We have an application that's pending.
And what is the site distance? What is the available site distance that the proposed driveway?
I don't have the traffic report. The traffic engineer that was submitted as part of this. But the driveway is located in the, I guess, the furthest location from that crest in Brook Road that's possible. We should
Not
further
necessarily.
down, not necessarily, okay.
If you shifted the parking to the other side of the driveway, you could shift the driveway further south, further away.
Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing.
You lose the parking because of the access to the parking garage, and then it requires.
Yeah, but you pick up the green. Just do the, I understand what you're saying.
There
Just
is
do the
room
math.
to extend that back further because the grading is not too bad.
Yeah,
So if you need a few more spaces to the north side of the building, you could.
Yeah,
it might work, but flipping the,
and then, right, and then
if you're playing with it on the napkin, you're line,
the only thing
Right,
is that the driveway has,
sight line,
the driveway has to be 12 feet from the property line.
right?
Based on DOT requirements.
We're
It might,
22 feet right now, so shifting it 10 and then having the parking push the building.
in the other direction, yeah, the other side of it, just look at it as a possibility. And then you get rid of that other parking. Something about.
Yeah, the parking 5 feet
5
versus
feet.
10 feet from
You
the
would
property.
you would not have that then. Well, whatever. So it still sounds feasible. I think the guidance regardless is take your shot at it, try to comply even, with the easement. And reopen the conversation with Jack, I guess,
And,
and the council.
and the other point that Bob Riley just made is you can extend the parking aisle back into the hill because the wall is only, there's at its lowest point there, one of its lower points.
How they do it, I mean, if there is the ability to make a condition, let's say, to maintain a certain width of the grass strip, how they get there, I don't know if that's that critical, but if,
I think it's an important factor in the layout of the site.
right, just as far as the condition to maintain 10 foot.
I wouldn't be comfortable making it a condition.
I'm sorry,
I wouldn't be comfortable making it a condition. I would like to see a sketch.
And the kind of obvious thing is like easements are often on property boundaries. It's just where they're done typically and having the easement or whatever the pathway on your western border makes a lot of logical sense in that regard too. And I still think you can do it. We're only, you can be a lot more creative, as to how and why. But I think you're gonna need a drawing. I'll just say it again, there's gonna have to be some sketch or drawing that gets presented to the council.
Present to
As-
the planning board as well.
Well, to resolve this issue, which is their problem. They're the property owners. They're the ones conveying this. They're the ones on the trail. They're the ones blocking. It is their problem. But it'd be nice to be helpful, like
But you're developing the site plan, so you should take the first shot at what you want to do, how you want to address that issue. Don't wait for the borough to
The
redesign.
problem was the issue was opened up that, oh, maybe we'll go try to buy an easement for the next door neighbor. That really confused this issue. And put you in an awkward situation where, well, maybe they'll figure that out. Odds of doing that, close to zero. But it was put into the statement, which they operate from. So it wasn't, hey, you need to figure out where you'd like to have the easement. And the town needs to grant it, you know, as part of the property and so forth.
So picking up what Mark said, I would like to see maybe at least 3 or 4 cross sections of the site, shows the building, the wall, and you know, the height of the wall, the height of the building, and that grass area in the back, so we don't, we get a better understanding of the
Elevations.
tunnel.
We typically ask for that kind of thing. It's your sight lines, obstruction, you don't really see it from these drawings, you know, people say, well, this is right in my face when I'm looking at something, you know, so it is not unusual for us to ask for perspective drawings, essentially, cross sections, so.
Okay.
It's a thought. You may think of another way to mitigate, you know, or optimize, I'll say that. Did you have anything else on your punch list?
The only other item that I had was regarding the proposed monument sign. Again, look, it was not part of the original approval. We talked about this last month at the Bernards Ave hearing that multifamily signage is not strictly permitted in your sign ordinance, so relief would be required for any signage at this development. The proposed sign dimensions, all the same as the sign that was proposed for Bernards Avenue, which would be again, 4.5 feet tall by 7.5 feet long. The sign area itself is 2.5 feet by 6 feet, 15 square feet. Top of a 2 foot by 7.5 foot base with a stone veneer to match the building. We've reviewed the borough sign ordinance pertaining to, I believe it was the downtown district, and how this sign would comply with that. And again, we believe it's in conformance with the small monument signage guidance. The sign is located right up on the front yard setback. Again, I'll shift it back so you can see, again, due to the front property lines set back from the road about 20 feet. The sign is set back about 20 feet into the site from the road, but it would be right up on the front yard setback to provide as much visibility as possible.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, just for clarification purposes, ask a couple of quick questions to get the magnitude, confirm the variance and relief that's being requested. Because if I understand correctly from the Bernards Avenue application, with this, what I'm hearing is the same sign. The bulk would be a bulk variance to permit the installation of the proposed 15-foot square foot monument sign, whereas only professional and nameplate signs not exceeding 2 square feet in area are permitted to be installed on a permanent basis in any residential zone. Would that be the deviation? I'm asking both the applicant and our planner.
Yes, variance.
I'm saying that's the variance.
That's the
Okay.
And if
And
there
then
was
there'd also be a setback, right?
yeah.
Front yard setback, and I wanted to correct something in my report. I referred to the parking setback variance, parking setback deviations as waivers. Because Article 9 is incorporated by reference into the zoning, these are variances, so that we all bundled into the C1, C2 arguments that they represent. And that would be required parking setback from the property line, we require 10 feet, 5.2 from the western property line, and then the setback combined with the road, 25 feet, where they're proposing 14. And those are variances. But again, bundled in with the arguments for the other relief that they're requesting.
And then,
Go
just to
ahead.
keep for everybody to keep score, the second monument sign variance, as I understand it, is a bulk variance to permit the proposed 15 square foot monument sign to be set back technically, that's a legal term, technically, 0 feet from the Mine Brook Road right of way. Whereas no signs in residential districts are to be installed nearer to any street than half of the setback required for the principal building to be installed on said plot. Which, I don't know what the setback here is, but it would be, yeah, 35, so 17 and a half would be what's required, and 0 is what is being proposed. Would that be your understanding, applicant?
As well as the front yard setback variance.
Well, the total for bigger.
Correct, but,
I'm talking the two at the time.
yep, perfect.
And Mr. Zabo, would that be your understanding as well? Yes. Okay, so there's the two sign variances.
Setback when you think about it, right, because you're asking for the variance for the front yard setback, and the signage is kind of based on front yard setback, so.
Still two separate, but yes,
They're two separate, but they're compatible, right, I mean,
leave that to the board.
what,
But those are the two monument sign variances. Since we're on that subject, I just wanted to get confirmation as to what exactly those variances were and the magnitude of the deviations.
I have two questions regarding the sign. So from what I'm understanding, the sign is gonna be 6.5 feet to the top of the sign from grade.
Correct.
The 4.5 foot sign and 2 foot foundation or monument.
No, it's 4.5 foot tall, the base is 2.5, and then a 2 foot sign above.
Right,
So
so the top of the sign is gonna be,
4.5 foot, maximum height, by 7.5 foot long.
It's on that exhibit, correct?
yeah,
do
can
you
you
have a picture of it?
do the, or at least show the arrow? There it is.
Okay,
4.5 feet total from ground to top, 7.5 feet total left to right.
okay, I thought it was on top of, I thought it was, that 2 foot was on top of the 4 foot 6.
Nope.
And is it proposed to be lit?
It would be uplighting, accent lighting, not back illuminated, anything like that. It would comply with all the borough's
Lighting regs.
lighting regulations for signs.
And John, they're the same, 63 Bernard's lighting is the same lighting as
That is correct.
this would be correct. Can you on this slide just use your laser and show where the monument sign would go? Just wondering.
So it's right at the driveway entrance.
At the moment, with this configuration, it would have been there, right? If you have
Yes.
other conceptual drawings, when you,
If
if
any,
you change anything.
if anything were to change, it would be located adjacent to the driveway on the front yard setback line. Again, just you can see how far that sign actually is from the road. You can't put the sign actually on the DOT's
But
property.
it might end up on, for instance, to the right of that sidewalk.
If-
It could end up there, depending on whatever you.
But if I may, the expectation is it would still remain 0 feet off the right of way,
Yeah,
and the sign's not gonna change in size, so the variance would be the same.
Correct.
yes. Okay. Sarah asked, did you have another question?
No, not unless there's anything else. That was a particular concern. The other items in terms of lighting, landscaping, they're all the same. We're not asking for any waivers, complying with the borough ordinance. And
Trees, anything? I think the first drawing had. You throw your first drawing up, I think it had more than you. I know it had more trees in it, it seems, but.
Yeah, there's-
I should've-
we had planted that front a little denser. And then again, I'm just gonna flip back to the site plan drawings. So you can see just some of that grade change in the front. You can see that the amount of grade difference from Mine Brook Road to the front of the building. Again, we have no issues putting additional shade trees along the frontage. There are some underground utilities that we need to locate, as Mr. Brett indicated. And it's also DOT properties, we just need to make sure that they're okay with the.
Oh, right.
The DOT doesn't usually allow.
Again, I'm not gonna say
No,
that
that'd
we'll
be
put
good.
something and tell you we'll do it and then if they come back, but it would be conditioned upon DOT having no issues with any shade trees up in that area.
But you could put them on the property.
It looks like you might.
Again, there is room for additional trees up against the property. Aesthetics of how that looks with a
Something.
20-foot embankment and then trees.
Okay.
Again, we can work that out with Mr.
Well,
Zabo.
you do your conceptual reaffirmation,
Yes,
maybe put some trees in. You mentioned the power currently is, a pole, it goes over. You're gonna put underground
yes.
and there are no issues with that, right? Implementing underground, we've had a lot of different applications recently about power underground,
Burners needed an exception to.
including theirs,
Bring
right?
it
But this one is
then
not a problem, right? You're okay with the requirements.
I'll tell you yes, and then the power company will tell us we somehow need a utility pole, so I don't want that to come back and bite us in
It
the.
happens because they feel they control everything,
Yeah,
in their domain.
okay.
They tell you
But from
where-
your perspective, everything's amenable, but you're subject to the winds.
Right, exactly, like
And
we could,
That's why people come back to us, because the power company says, well, I was okay with it, but the power company said, oh, no.
Where's the power line? Is it on this side of the road or the other side?
like the overhead lines are definitely on the other side of the street.
I think they're-
And there's a line that goes across the street over onto the property.
Right.
See it right here, that's an overhead line that crosses over. Again, whether power company allows us to utilize that line and have a riser down the pole, I don't
Yeah,
know,
it
there's,
just has to know that's where the power's coming.
yeah, power's coming from across the street to our site.
And anything with gas and all
So
that
it's
stuff,
gonna
it's
be-
all, are you gonna have gas in this?
Yes, there will be gas, yes, everything's underground.
Thing?
The previous fire department objections were that the line was adjacent to the building. And it affected the access of the fire people to the getting ladders and kind of stuff up in the building. But if the power line's on the other side of the road, that's not an issue.
No, yeah, the overhead lines are all on,
Yeah,
I'll say this side of Minebrook Road.
correct, yeah.
Again, is it feasible that the power company tells us we need another riser pole out the street? Yes, it wouldn't be on our property, it would be out in the right of way. And then we would come,
Chairman, I think it's going to be
Very what?
very likely the power company's gonna put a pole there and drop along.
Yeah,
There's all the power lines that cross the street. There is a pole further up. But I don't think that's on their
Are
property.
they gonna throw a transformer on it? I mean, they're gonna take.
They might plan on that now. It's, that
Yeah.
contingency is gonna happen.
If required.
If required.
Okay, well,
no, yeah, we would certainly ask for the same relief as burners, that if there was a utility pole that is needed to service the site on site, whether it's on the subject property or out in the right of way, then we would ask for that.
yeah, but with Bernard, you keep in mind, with Bernard, you did also specify, here's where I think the transformer box would need to be, and
Same condition.
Same condition.
Right,
I
so,
suspect it's not there, is it there?
no, we don't have
You haven't got that level.
the recommended transformer location would be in the back of the site,
Uh,
right in that back area. Again, we could tell the power company where we'd like to put the transformer, and they tell you,
yeah,
they put it where they want it, but
if
the
you
poles,
put it in the front, you wanna shield it.
100%.
You know, whatever, obscure,
If-
screen it.
If they required it to be in the front of the property, we would screen it as permitted by their rules and regulations. I know you can't completely screen a transformer, they need to have access to it. There's certain restrictions on what we can and can't do, but we would screen it to the best of our ability if it was required to be in the front. But I don't see why they wouldn't allow us to put it in the back of the site. They have vehicular access to access it, maintain it, set it. And then it's a short run from that transformer to the building. That would be the preferred location, but obviously we're at their discretion.
Other question. Go ahead.
I have a question. The original well-drafted resolution, expertly drafted resolution, has
Mr.
58,
Simoff, you don't have to stop, you can keep going.
has 58 conditions. How many of those, so obviously, some of them are, approval will be required from DOT, some are taking soil conservation, those obviously are, just continuing conditions. But how have you resolved any of the others?
A lot of the conditions are comments directly from Mr. Brightly's review letter at the time, again, which we've agreed to comply with. Some of them are stormwater related, utility related. Mr. Brightly's been helpful with kind of getting us in touch with the appropriate people at Public Works to help us with our water and sewer designs and permitting, and to establish, the comment about the force main on the adjacent property. We got some more information from the borough regarding the sewer line running in front of the property, so that we can make sure that it complies with all of his comments and recommendations.
But this plan, does this plan comply with?
Does it comply? No, we still have a new review letter from Mr. Brightly with comments in it that would be replace the majority of those old conditions with assuming new conditions from his letter and Mr. Zabel's letters as well.
And if it helps, if I may, Mr. Chairman, what we did with the prior approval for Bernards Avenue, the resolution of which is 99% completed and through all the professionals and applicants team, and will be up for adoption next meeting, is essentially a reconciliation, to the extent that Mr. Brightly hasn't already done a reconciliation by pointing out new conditions of approval that would be required if there's an approval, and ones that are no longer applicable from the preliminary approval, because obviously this is an amended preliminary and final if it's granted. So there are some 50, 60 conditions, and frankly, some of them have 20, 25 subparts. I don't believe we'll be going through each and every one of the 200 and some odd now, but that's the process that took place.
You'll do a reconciliation.
And I think we can rely on Mr. Brightly's memo to a large extent, would be my thought.
The key is to have a disposition for each one of them, that's all.
I'm sorry, Mr.
To
Chair?
have a disposition for each one of them, which the disposition can be deleted or resolved.
Bob, are you comfortable with all these conditions being worked out?
Yes, I think they have to be worked out, there's really nothing that's, I mean, the biggest concern that we have is the wall. Not being able to build 35-foot high wall so close to the property. There's a lot of technical comments, the letters very similar to the original letter, to be honest with you. But those conditions are having to be carried forward.
Some are new, some are different.
They emerged.
Yes, some are the same. Maybe we could hear from the applicant expeditiously with respect to Mr. Brightly's August 15, 2023 memo. I apologize, Mr. Chairman, for being presumptuous, but we're still in Mr. Brightly's thunder, but that's the laundry list as I understand it.
Yeah, what we typically ask is,
Can
are
speak
you
with-
okay with what, you understand what Mr. Brightly has said, and are you generally okay with him, or speak now if there's something in there that you feel is onerous that you need to reconsider? We understand that the engineers work stuff out together.
There's no conditions in Mr. Brightly's letter that we are not onerous.
I just want to make one comment, though. I think on E1, carried that comment over, it's indicating that this was a major development, but I think we're reducing this, moving it forward. In the beginning, I mentioned it's a minor stormwater development. So
Right.
that's a typo in the report.
And I'm sorry, you said E1.
Yeah, other.
So you're saying,
E1 mentions a major development where C1 mentions that it is less than an acre disturbance and it's not.
I think previously.
Which page are we on?
previously or over, it was potentially major, but now with the adjustments and optimizations, they are now not a major,
That's out there.
which is good.
Based on the amount of disturbance.
Right.
Are we in the August 15, 2023? report?
Yes.
Okay.
Section Page 7 is section, oh no, it's page 6 is C1.
Oh, I'm sorry, C1, I think it's E1.
C1 correctly states that it is a minor development.
Right.
E1 on page 8 says that it is a major development, so we would just correct that to ensure that the record is we are not a major development.
Oh, there's the, okay, gotcha,
Yes.
gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Okay, well, that's the,
And then
what
I
we,
want to throw another monkey wrench into it. You might want to make the sign a little bit bigger. Because, Bernards Avenue, the traffic goes at 20, supposed to go at 25 miles an hour.
It's faster here.
It's 40 mile an hour traffic here, which we have a letter sign. Talk to your traffic consultant about making the letter sizes a little bit bigger. Which may require a bigger sign. But as long as the height shouldn't be more than 3.5 feet to the top of the sign, because that's sight distance, the driver's eye.
Well, the sign is pulled back substantially
Right,
from,
so I don't have a problem with it. But you might want to make the sign a little bit with larger letters because of the sight, because of the traffic flow.
understood, that's a good recommendation, thank you.
this is out of the blue, but it's something we asked, the EV spaces. The fire department wants them to be near open, open, exposed air. Basically, they have to let them burn, basically, and they'll catch fire. And so they kind of requested, and a number of apps have done this, so says, just can you make sure they're close to, an opening or open air. Obviously outside, not a problem, but you're gonna have some inside, I guess, so think about that.
The EV spaces are proposed right at the inside of the underground parking close to the front. They're not tucked all the way in the back or anything like
Right,
that.
they're not underground, that's great, but there would typically be some kind of windows or grates or something that would let the fresh air in, so, well, whatever.
Well, this garage has to be ventilated, right?
Yes.
Yeah, but it's more than that they're asking for, they're not just saying ventilation, they're saying. I don't know, I'm not looking
We'll
at
take
the
that
other
into
names,
review.
look at it, think about it.
Yes.
The other thing they may mention is, the type of construction in terms of fire retardant above the EV spaces. More than a typical garage would have, and I don't know the spec, but I do know that's the essence of it, which is we're gonna let this sucker burn. We'd like a little more protection above it. Just find out what that is obviously marginal when you're building the building and, if it's just in that area. But think about it where you're putting your make-ready spaces and so forth.
Okay, yeah, we'll take a look at that.
And another, where the garage ventilated to, where the vent,
I can let our architect talk about the building itself and the plans for that.
want to make sure it doesn't impact the units.
No, they won't.
Anything else from our professionals or board? I can,
Mr. Shelley, there were landscape comments in my report that are dated October 23rd. Any issues with, complying with that and working with my office to supplement if needed?
No.
That's page 8, right?
I was, just one other question, the right of way, is that a physical, taking by the state or is it leasing?
The right of way exists.
Oh,
Yeah, there's no
taking.
no taking, no dedication, no easements, nothing.
It's a 66 foot right of way, isn't it?
sounds bigger.
County.
County was 66.
No, well, this is a Queens highway.
It's a variable width from the,
I'm sorry, US.
It's like 14 lengths or something.
yeah, if you could see on this plan, There's a gray line located just behind the property line.
Hmm.
That's, there it was, I think it was 78 foot from the center line.
What is the dimension all around the right side of the property? Right there. There's a line that goes between the two.
It's 78 feet from, the far side of the
Oh,
property.
that's the DTS.
Yeah, the DTS for 39 feet. It's hard to see in here, I'm sorry, let me zoom in.
Design don't keep it like that.
Yeah. Yeah, 39 feet from the travelway.
There it is. Oh, we're on the street, right?
Keep zooming in further.
It's 6 feet. Right. It's not 99. Oh, no, it's really right in the sheet. Goes from right away to right away. Right there.
Yeah, 66. Across.
Like 14 links or 14 chains. Some archaic surveying measurement.
It's amazing that they don't update it, but that's what they do.
Yeah.
Okay, anything more, John, or?
I think there's one other thing that Mr. Chairman, Mr. Day was looking at, and that is the issue of, on page 5 of his report, request for slope disturbance, even calculation.
Yeah, I have them. We will add a chart to the plans, the disturbances, again, I'll read it here, the 15 to 24.99%. There's a total of 5,054 square feet. 75% of the maximum disturbance, we are proposing to disturb 71.2.
I missed the first one.
I will-
Max, that's it. Is the
Max
percent?
is 75.
Okay, so you're under.
Under, the 25 to 29.99% slope. Total area of 9,384 square feet. 55% is the maximum allowed, 9.9 is disturbed, under.
2 for 2.
And 30% or greater, there's 16,163 square feet. 50% is permitted, 27.8% is disturbed.
So the testimony is no variance or exception relief required.
Correct.
And those are on the plans already, or
No, I calculated on, a table will be added to the plans to document.
so you're stipulating to that condition?
Correct.
Thank you. Is that good? Yeah. How did it? He's a better lawyer than I am.
No, planners are frustrated, attorneys are frustrated.
We're all just frustrated.
Okay, so.
I'm sorry, that's for the record.
At this time, I'm opening up to the public to ask questions of this witness about whatever this witness is covering. So if there's anyone from the public present who would like to ask a question of the witness, please let us know. I see none.
Next witness.
Yeah, next witness.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good evening, everybody.
Our next witness is our architect. I'm ready to pull up the plan.
And just opening step one.
Okay. While we're opening up plans to show, we'd like to offer him as an expert in architecture.
So
we can
before you
run
do,
through
we can get his name and business address, and I'll swear him in. In fact, I'll swear you in first, so that we know you're telling us the true name. Do you swear to God or affirm that the testimony you're about to give us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please provide your name and address, and your company for the record.
Sure, my name is Joaquin, first name Joaquin, last name is Bouzas, Bouzas. Business address is 632 Pompton Avenue in Cedar Grove.
And Mr. Rhodes, can you please provide your education and background for the board?
Sure, I have a bachelor's of architecture from NJIT. I got my license in 2003. I'm a principal at Glaze Architecture and Engineering. My license is current and in good standing. I've testified before this board, actually, a while ago. But before other probably 50 municipalities throughout the state.
And you've been accepted as a professional architect.
I have, yes. Yes. That's what I got.
Five of those.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, so we will start on,
Mr. Moses, if you can just confirm for the record, these are the architectural plans that were submitted to the board, correct?
correct, yes.
There's no change, correct?
No changes. Yeah, these are dated 5/1/23.
Thank you.
So we have the ground floor, basically the below ground floor, which is a parking area.
I'm sorry, if you just give it, they don't need to be marked as exhibits because they're submitted more than 10 days in advance of this evening as architectural plans, but if you could just reference the sheet we're on each time,
Sure.
the sheet number.
This is A100
Thank you.
and it's called the building plans. So, as I mentioned, this is the parking, garage, if you will. Come off the driveway and turn into the parking area. There's the lobby, right here in this corner, the elevator that brings you up, building. We have the storage closet and a utility closet. I'm gonna show an exhibit, after these plans where we've increased, the size of this utility, and I'll explain that after. We have a trash compactor room, handicap accessible spaces. As mentioned, the EV spaces would go over here, and then the two means of egress stairs that are required by code. We also have, two compact spaces here, in the corner.
Are the handicap spaces 22 feet in depth?
22 feet, they're 20 feet.
Yeah, they state code,
But-
they have to be 22.
Yeah, I have some striped area here.
It's easy to just, sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's not.
Sure. Then we have a van accessible space, which is that first space, which is wider.
11 feet, right?
On sheet A110, this is the ground floor plan, and this you can see the lobby, and then basically the entrance, main entrance that was flipped. Again, a lobby here in the corner. We have a mail room, right here, a package room right here next to the elevator. And then the community room right here, that's a little over the 1,200 square feet, a bath, a half bathroom, and then a small kitchenette. Then we have a mix of, 1s, 2s, and 3 bedrooms. This was it hasn't changed the number of units that we have. It's still 26, but the unit mix has changed slightly. We have 5 1-bedrooms, we have 13 2-bedrooms, and 8 3-bedrooms. What else? So we have, here's the trash room that is accessed from each floor. That'll go down into the parking area. And then we have a common laundry room for the building. And then you just enter all the units from the main hallway.
So while you've got that up there. We mentioned before the bump ins that are one's near the trash
yes.
and the other one's near something else that's down to the right there.
Yeah, they become more relevant, although they, it's pretty a substantial depth, but they become more apparent on the front elevations why we do it.
Yes.
And so I'll explain that. But we have one here and then one right down there. And it's really just to break up the mass. The building is a little over 250 feet long. And so architecturally, we've taken these bump-ins to create 3 building elements, if you will, which reduces the scale of the building.
Well, there's a lot of articulation that you've got already.
Yeah,
Our thought was, if you were to make that part of the unit, like a triple or whatever, you know, that you were to consume that space as part of the unit and
Mhm.
adjacent unit, is there a way at the upper right-hand corner to reduce, to bring that back? The upper right, the very right, upper right hand there,
right here.
next to the wall.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a way for you to adjust the units and so sizes and so forth, so that you could release that corner?
No, because they're all set to a certain depth already. And so by me just bringing this down, I'd be reducing all these.
No, an L-shaped apartment. 3-bedroom apartment, whatever. You just take.
Oh, and lop off that corner?
Yeah, there may be ways to readjust it.
Mhm.
And you know best that the idea is, we'd like you to lop off the corner in the back. Can you leverage this other space? And the answer could be no, but this other space to come up with the same number of units, you know, or same number, whatever, the right mix.
Yeah.
And you gotta have a drawing like this to be able to even gain it, to try to figure it out, but.
Yeah.
I'm saying we would sacrifice the insets, if we could get the upper right-hand corner pulled back a little bit.
Honestly, I'm not sure, you know,
I
how
don't think
much.
you can be sure, it's just an idea.
Yeah, but in my professional opinion, I don't think it would improve this condition drastically. You know, you would still have all these other spaces that, you know, as Mr. Shelley noted, this wall keeps, you know, climbing. And so, you know, maybe we're talking about from here to like, you know, here. And so, you know, just removing 1 bedroom, I don't think really affects,
It
you
does
know.
for that 1 bedroom.
Well, we would eliminate it altogether.
No, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
or 2, there's probably one above it too, right?
Yeah.
I would guess.
We could certainly look at it, to see if we could reduce that. And maybe it doesn't affect, because I think it's really important to maintain this break along the facade, and I'll show you the elevations and.
Comment here. I agree with you that breaking up the front facade,
Mhm.
definitely needs to be done, again, at 260 feet. Even if you're driving by at 40 miles an hour, that's a huge building, especially in that area, there's nothing along that road that's that big. So breaking that up, I think I'll applaud you on that. But I'm gonna now say just the opposite on the backside. So what you've given to the people driving by at 40 miles an hour of an undulating facade,
Mhm.
that, you know, gives you a nice breakup of that building, you've done just the opposite on the backside. So for the scale of a person walking down that sidewalk, you know, to that entrance, or kids playing out there, you have a 260-foot flat facade with no break in it at all. And it has, I'm gonna say, close to 35 air conditioning units out on it that face it. I'm wondering what the reasoning for the dual wall air conditioning and heating units are.
Well,
Because there is a flat roof in the middle of this
yes,
that could house air conditioning units.
yeah, the condensers.
Yeah,
And honestly, we've been talking about it recently, and we show these on the plan in order to be covered. You know, to propose P-tax, you know, as a means of heating and cooling. But we were gonna be going in the direction of forced air heating and cooling, and providing HVAC units, like a blower inside the unit, and then a condenser on the roof. So all those will be eliminated along there.
Okay,
Mhm.
that's, again, it's
Yeah.
a huge concern. I mean, visually, you see it, it jumps out at you on the plan, even if you don't know what it is, it looks like a window. Kind
Yeah,
of.
it's like a hotel, and when you
Yeah,
go,
it's like, you also lose a lot of wall space and floor space in each unit because of that sticking into the room. You can't put anything
So
up
Steve,
against
you got
it.
that right? Steve? Steve,
I'm sorry,
you have that stipulation, correct?
I apologize, I missed it.
All right, we'll let him say the stipulation to you.
You got
yeah, we're not going to be using, PTAC units for HVAC. We're gonna be using, forced air split systems with the condensers on the roof.
So a ductless split.
No, with
Ductless
duct,
split unit or a HVAC, like a blower unit in a closet,
correct. Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, so ducted.
ducted, correct, okay.
Another point is with the units on the back wall and the wall so close, you're gonna get feedback, noise. It's gonna bounce off the wall back into the apartments.
What, when,
With this.
It would,
oh,
It would, right?
right, sure.
another rationale.
You can achieve some of that breakup in that
Yes.
back wall by shifting
I don't think we do
by shifting the stairwells in a little bit or something like that, but something to break up that facade. It's just a huge slab of building that between a huge building and a tall wall.
Yeah, so that'll be helpful, that we'll remove all those.
I'm sorry, you're removing
The PTEX,
other people. Okay,
yeah.
gotcha.
PTEX. Okay, so,
And then, is the elevator compliant with the stretcher?
of course, yeah,
Are
ADA,
you be able to get around that corner?
No, stretcher, not ADA,
stretcher compliant,
stretcher.
yes.
Okay.
And then you'd be able to get around that corner.
Over here?
From this, the common area.
Yeah, these are, we usually do 5-foot hallways, so they're pretty wide and comfortable.
What else did you want to say? We interrupted you on this.
Yeah, I was trying to think, but
Sure.
it'll probably
Sorry.
come back to me. So the second floor, the top floor, essentially is the same layout, except the corner where we had the community room and the lobby entrance, that becomes a unit there.
Where's the supervisors? Whatever, the manager's unit.
The supers unit, typically put it on the ground floor. It's usually a 2-bedroom, right, Mike? 3-bedroom. 3 bedrooms.
Facing front, ground floor.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What else? Anything?
No. This is A130, and again, just to cover our bases, we showed originally the condensers on the roof, just in case we were going that route. But again, you would never see these condensers. They come up about, 36 inches. And the mansard roof that we're proposing all around this would certainly hide those. And then we only have one of the stairs go up to the roof for, access and repair and all that.
And as you just said, I don't think this is a problem, just want to confirm. Behind this lot is that steep hill.
Mhm.
And on the top of that steep hill are homes, right? But it is heavily wooded on the hill, and so we're sort of saying anyone who's up there on that upper
Yeah.
street, could, if they tried, they could look down and see the condensers, probably suggesting
There would be a lot of trees in the way.
won't be a problem.
Right.
That they're far enough away and high enough away and screened enough that. Okay,
As we move on, this is sheet A140. And so these have the unit types. There's really only 3 unit types, but because of the corners and you know, the variations in the floor plan with the set-ins and all that. The units kind of change a little bit, but in general, the units range from 675 square feet for the one bedroom to 1,150 square feet for the three bedrooms.
Yeah, one there is 1235.
1235. Okay, that's good. 1235 it's probably like one of the unique ones. So we took the averages. So the three bedroom, the type E, I'll just quickly go through this one. As you come in, you have the kitchen, you have an open island around, a dining area, a living room here. This is generally about 12 feet wide. This would actually be, we have it as a closet, but this would be the HVAC closet. I'm sorry, this would be the furnace, the closet for the blower and the furnace. This would be a storage closet or coat closet, another closet here. The ADA bathroom, this would be an adaptable bathroom. Since this is a elevator building, all the units need to be adaptable in case they need to be converted in the future. So we build all the clearances that we need ahead of time, and then to convert it later on, we'll install the grab bars and lower the kitchen counter if needed. And so then this is the primary bedroom with a large walk-in closet, a bathroom within the primary bedroom, and then two other bedrooms with other closets. And so generally that's the layout, the three bedrooms, the two bathrooms. This is a U-shaped kitchen just because of the location and how it, you know, ended up in that corner of the building.
Yeah, it's a corner, unit.
Yeah, so plenty of windows. You know, we typically put 3 by 5 foot windows, sometimes 6 foot windows, but a lot of light into the unit. High efficiency windows, low E, argon filled. This project would be going for Energy Star.
I have one stipulation for you, and I don't think it's a problem. So I think it's easy to stipulate to, and that is that there will be no enclosed room larger than 70 feet. Other than bedrooms, which potentially could be there. I don't want to have.
I'm sorry, larger than what, how many?
Mystery, 70 square feet. Mystery bedrooms. Your project, because of what you're doing, it's not gonna have a problem, but you've got your bedrooms defined. There can't be any other rooms with a door on them in each unit that exceeds 70%, 70 square feet.
70 square feet.
Yeah, and like I say, no issue, just.
Yeah.
Want to stipulate that will be.
Yeah, we sometimes end up calling those rooms like a den or a home
Some
office, you
people
know?
do, and
And then they-
end up using them as illegal bedrooms.
Right, by code, you always need a window.
I know by code.
Yeah.
You don't want to have to worry about code.
These are rentals, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So the manager is living on site.
And don't want to attract a nuisance. Create a 70 square foot room and put a door on it. It's a bedroom.
Yeah.
To somebody who's gonna be there. Not a problem for you. Looking at your layouts, you're fine. Just don't want to have any of that.
May I ask a question?
Yeah, of course.
Just on the laundry rooms, there's one on each floor.
Yes,
And how many washer dryers in each laundry room?
3 washers, 3 dryers. This is sheet A200, and these are the proposed elevations. We'll start with the back elevation. We've used Pretty,
I'm sorry, these are all the same plans as were submitted?
yes,
Are these, what was submitted was colorized? Is this colorized?
no, not this one, there's another, one that we've submitted that we have here as well.
Was,
Like a colored elevation.
you know, what you're showing us right now is it exactly what, as it was submitted, 1800?
Yeah.
It might have a different more colors.
Did we submit the colored renderings? No, that's not colored. I have another exhibit.
Color on my screen.
Pardon?
It's not on my screen, it's showing black and white, but it's shaded.
They're shaded. Okay, well, if this is A200.
I have this one.
As submitted. Well, that's it, yeah, can we go back one? The one you were just showing us, A200. Is that how it was submitted?
Yes, that was
Okay,
exactly how it was submitted.
that's fine.
What was I Oh, so the exterior, so we're using materials that are consistent with the residential context. And we're proposing, pretty high quality materials. Fiber cement siding, stone veneer in certain areas as accents and the water table. We have a standing seam metal roof and then black vinyl windows as that go well with the design. So we've also this is like the rear facade, we've broken up architecturally with elements, panels, where we have fiber cement siding, and then in some areas we've grouped the windows and created, an architectural element there. And then this is the entrances, the covered porches, for the community room and the entrance, the lobby area. And so you have those two elements there.
And Mr. Moses, those are the two covered porch
Yes.
areas that were shown as the tan boxes on the site plan, correct?
Exactly. Mhm.
Are there steps up to those? There must.
Yeah,
It's
there
a
was
higher
steps.
level, there must be steps up
Yeah, there
to
was-
get up there. Right?
Yeah.
'Cause it's-
And the question that is passed to you is what's the clearance in the garage?
It's 9'6".
And that's what the door is,
Yes. Over here,
or the opening?
the open right here. Yeah. Is the. Oh, and then we have. So I don't know if you could see it here, but I know a question came up of the venting of the garage. And so we have an intake and an exhaust. Let's see if I can zoom in on that. Yeah. A little better. Oh, yeah, there we go. Yeah, so these are exhaust, intake, and these are generally set to a carbon monoxide detector. And the fans only go on if that carbon monoxide detector is triggered. We've put quite a few in these buildings that have like never gone off. Vehicles just don't emit as much carbon dioxide or exhaust these days. But they have to be required because we're not providing any openings for natural ventilation. And so that's where the vents would go.
Yeah, you're definitely gonna wanna talk to the fire. So like emergency fans, that it's because you just expect it to naturally dissipate. I'm talking back the EV stuff, fire.
Oh, yeah, I can speak to that
Yeah.
because we're the architects, but we're also the engineers, structural engineers, MEP engineers. So some municipalities have actually, and I think it's a good idea, that we increase the number of sprinkler heads around the EV cars. Yes, ma'am.
you don't use water
Yeah, it doesn't,
on an EV fire. They
Right.
use a special foam, which, and I'm not sophisticated enough to tell you what the name of it is, but there is a special foam that has to be used to put out an EV fire. Water will simply make it worse. And one of the questions I was thinking of earlier is whatever products you're using on the floor of the garage to set the garage, excuse me, is that something, it needs to be able to, handle the fire suppression of whatever foam it is they have to use. But you do not use water with an EV fire.
when they do.
I mean,
use
they-
water, it
they
takes
use
10
water.
times as much. water.
Exactly, yeah, and that's
a lot more.
yeah, that's why the
I-
municipal.
We're just saying, we
Yeah.
know you need the talk.
Yeah, understood.
Fire guy, especially since you're proposing not having it open, I think, there's no
Yeah, no, there's no openings.
openings, you really need to talk to them.
Yeah.
How many EV spaces are you required to have? Is it? one?
Total of 8,
Total of 8?
yes.
I mean, one way to beat it is put them outside.
That would be all of the spaces
No,
outside,
I know,
but that's something that we would want.
just,
Yeah.
But you also have the issue of EV cars underneath, the car catches fire, sometimes even if it's not
yeah, it's not just the chargers, but
the batteries.
there's a whole question. You're absolutely right. It's not just the charging, it's the battery, it's the cars, it's people parking the cars. It's the burning.
This is the front elevation, and this is really where you can see, the insets and, the way we've done that, both of them are different, setbacks. And that was purposefully because, it creates more of a shadow back here. And so if you kind of make them equal, it'll look on purpose. And so we wanted each, element to really pop separately and make it look like it was, 3 different architectural elements, 3 smaller buildings, if you will. And again, I know there was a lot of, setbacks and all on the facade, but those other setbacks or elements were just these bay elements. So it's really just these, but the main ones are the insets that we proposed.
And no balconies, right?
Yeah. And then again, some other fiber cement elements, paneling, some elements here at the top of the bays with some standing seam metal roofs, fake dormers, because there would be no space up there. They're really just architectural features, board and batten siding.
For the dormers, are they actual windows? Are they fake windows?
We have them as
You would
windows.
have them as actual windows with something in back of them
Correct, yeah, exactly.
and any particular reason why it's just a flat dormer instead of pitched roof or just something to?
No, it's pitched, see here.
I know it's pitched, but instead of having like
Like a gable?
a gable end, you just have
Well, yeah, there were so many already angles. See how we already have a gable here, these pitch because of the mansard that goes around those elements. And we just thought it would be distracting and just like way too many. And we wanted it simple and elegant and a lot of these dormers with these, shed roofs are very popular in, residential design.
I'm not sure if this is an appropriate question or not. When you talk about fiber cement, is there a particular brand that you use?
Not necessarily, but people would, you would hear James Hardy, fiber cement, but there's certainty, James Hardy.
Some of them have issues with smoke, I should say 15 years ago. Some of them had issues if there was fire, and some toxic.
Yeah, they've improved
Addressed all of
that,
that?
yeah.
Okay.
And we may constrain them, John, on this, but the pitch of the roof, is there any way to bring the roof line down? At all, I know we have something in the codes about pitch on the roof, but just anything to make it lower.
That's the architectural design feature, I don't know if they can. We design it.
I think we have something in the code that talks about the actual pitch.
Not to the H3 zone.
Oh, yeah.
With that,
But if you inherited it,
it's not the downtown. It's an H3 zone, we did not incorporate.
so we don't have anything that explicitly tells a pitch on the,
Nothing there.
all right, well. If there's any way to knock a foot off. It's not occupied, obviously, so.
No, it's not occupied, no, it's basically a fake mansard that goes around, and it's just, a flat wall
Right.
behind it.
For the equipment.
Yeah.
I could just, if you could just take a look and see if there's anything. I know it'll affect the peak of the gables that are there, and then, that may be what's driving the height, but.
Yeah, I mean, proportionally, and this is a 45-degree angle, we could maybe go to 35. I think 30 would be way too low, because then I start to,
Asking for a little, I want you
okay.
to be what you are comfortable with looking at, but if there's a way to be comfortable with a slightly lower roof line, then. Have at it,
46 from the
not a stipulation,
driveway.
Request.
just something to think about.
Understood.
And there are no chimneys, correct? Or, is there any venting to the roof or what?
Venting that you would never see, just from the,
But the point is there are
HVAC
no
equipment.
actual chimneys.
No.
Okay,
And here you could actually get a little bit of a glimpse of the space between the building and the wall. Here. Which, for light and air, it's certainly enough. Aesthetically, yeah, I mean, you're looking out and you're looking at a retaining wall, but we've done some pretty decent retaining walls. We did a project in North Caldwell. And, we did some retaining walls that are like 35, 40 feet high. And we ended up using nice landscape block, big block. And then put all ivy and just landscaping that would grow down the wall eventually, and it looks really nice.
wasn't the testimony, from the engineer that at least in one spot on that wall, it's 21 feet, out what I heard?
Yeah, I think that's what he said.
20.
We're probably showing the,
And
yeah, go ahead.
so if that were the quote, worst case scenario, that line would be higher, correct? It would be almost 2
There would
floors.
almost be to the gutter.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that would be 2 units, right? 'Cause I mean, the units are on top of each other, right? I mean, there are no stairs.
right.
So,
Well, this is probably 8, 10. Yeah, this is probably showing a 15-foot wall.
well, it's to the gutter, right? Like I said, that's.
Yeah.
That you might want to, whatever you decide on, because you were looking at, maybe the wall might change even a little bit, 1 or 2 feet, but whatever it is, that this should probably, should this be adjusted to show that wall height? This sheet, that sheet. to
Yeah,
that sheet.
well,
You'll adjust, okay.
yeah. Yeah, we'll adjust that. So any other questions on the architecturals? We're pretty much done. This is the floor plans, the elevations, and then I have 2 other.
One, and I know what the answer can be, but I have to ask, and that is, any plan, at all for solar at some point? And typically the answer is No, it's affordable housing or.
No, I mean, we've done
But-
plenty of solar and affordable housing.
But
This,
Is there an element there, not even to initially build it, but what we ask for is like solar ready, like at least throw conduits in potentially, at least think about when you're doing your roof where you might have solar
the,
panels.
the problem with this building, we've encountered in other projects, is that because of the design, the mansard roof, it casts way too much shadow.
Yeah,
And by the time you take into account the condensers, the vents and the mansard roof, there's almost none.
it's okay,
Yeah.
I'm just saying, it just needs to be asked and answered.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
just always have your answer at the ready, so that when people say, well, why aren't you green and why aren't you solar? And there are even other things like green roofs and things like that, and we might ask more of a non-affordable housing.
Yeah, of course.
But you should have good answers, and if there's anything you can do to have it make ready at low cost.
Mhm.
At least do that, so you prohibit something,
Right.
the super miraculous solar cell that's got, the site. Sorry, any other,
Did you say you have 2 more exhibits?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
no,
I think he has a little more to show us.
oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's why I was asking if there was any more on the architectural, because I
Oh,
was gonna
okay.
go on to the revised ground floor where we show the,
And this is gonna be A3 already too? This is an exhibit, correct? It wasn't previously submitted in this format?
that's right, yeah, just, this is based off.
So it's A3, it's the, what was it, A100 with red, with changes?
It's,
All right.
it's essentially called, utility room plan update dated 12/14/23.
Utility room plan update. And I'm sorry, the date?
12/14/23. And
This is exhibit A3, go ahead.
yeah, and it really just shows the water meter sprinkler room and then the electric switchgear room. And we made it larger, because of the backflow preventer that's required. I don't think you touched on that, right, Kevin? Because our water service would be coming in, more than 100 feet, right, from the, road?
No, we would just need a backflow preventer inside the building instead of having a hot box on the
Right.
outside. We made room for that on this layout, by taking a little more space from that ground floor.
Great. Yeah, and you made a note to make those ADA spaces 22 feet, it looks like it will be no problem at all, but.
Yeah,
But you reduced,
See,
the
the original plan had 43 spaces inside.
So the original plan as submitted, the parking table in the front says 50 spaces are proposed, 46 are required. We are losing 3 spaces in that ground floor area, so that brings the proposed 47. Required is 46. We're still compliant, but we lost the 3 spaces inside that to account for the larger utility rooms.
thanks, Tim.
now you mentioned it's a sprinkler, I never asked, it's a sprinkler building,
Yes.
okay.
Yep.
I know you mentioned it when we talked about it, okay. Where is your water storage for the sprinkler? Is that,
Water, there's no water storage, it's just basic, a line, direct feed. There's no tank.
pressurized?
Well, we have to
That would
check
be
hydrant.
100 PSI, right?
Right, well, if we do need it, we need to put a pump. Sprinkler pump. To get us the pressure that we need.
And the fire, I guess they want,
Hydrant flow tests in order to understand the pressure, and then we could do the calculations. Okay. And then the other. This was a colored elevation, oh, so this one, yeah, we made it more seen, yes.
And we're calling it,
This one is colored elevation dated 12/14/23. And this essentially calls out the materials, lap siding, a stone veneer, a wood accent, walnut tone around the porch entrances or the canopies over the entrances. Windows and doors would be in black, a standing seam metal roof in gray, boarding batten, fiber cement, dark gray, fiber cement, boarding batten in light gray, and then another boarding batten in white, and just playing with all those materials and textures on the facade.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask you a quick question?
Of course.
Have these four exhibits been provided to the board or board secretary prior to the seating?
No,
Can you immediately provide all four to the board secretary so she can put the same on the website?
yes,
Thank you. And provide them to the board members and the board professionals, including the board attorney, please. Thank you.
So I think the colored facade will probably be good to address. The Historic Preservation Advisory Committee had overall no issues. But they asked that they be involved in selecting the stone and colors, and we're more than happy to collaborate with them and get their feedback and implement it.
They might have an opinion about the windows that are in the little gables up there, but there or down below. The sides, in the gables.
Oh, these.
Those guys, yeah, it's just, they might have a suggestion for him. Just check it out.
Easy. No problem. And I think the other thing. Yeah, I mentioned we were gonna be Energy Star. Yeah, I think that's about covers my testimony. Do you have any
I
other
have a
questions?
question for you. I just want to see how it works.
Mhm.
If I were walking in the driveway and I know normally I go into the driveway and I get in the elevator and ride up, like. How does one go from the driveway to the back of the property? Is it steps or is it, I mean, cause the driveway's like at garage level, right? And yeah, where,
Yeah, the stairs.
Right, so,
stairs are there, okay.
right, you walk in, there's the entrance down to the ground floor.
Uh-huh,
This is the lobby area
right,
that has the elevator on the ground floor. Or you can take the steps up, turn, steps up to, call it first floor. And that brings you to the grade level of the lobby.
okay, that's the answer, I just didn't see the steps.
Yeah, I didn't really touch it on when we went through there, and when we pushed it from the front to the back, that was a feature that was added.
Okay,
On the black and white elevations, I believe you show a shed roof to that, the ground floor entrance right there.
Over here, yes.
Is that there or is it, because it's not shown on that plan?
That is there, that would be.
So it would actually be come out to the sidewalk?
Not that far, it would only come out the 4 feet, 3 feet, that's like right there. It wouldn't get to the sidewalk. Because the door is back at the right.
Right, obviously, yeah, there's just like, you have the two bump outs there that show the entrance to the lobby and
Yeah.
community room, but you don't have it there.
Yeah, those are more like a grander,
Right,
deeper porch area, that's really just a canopy on the side.
Okay.
We should have called that on the rendering, guys.
Yeah, no, it just threw me off when I didn't see it, so.
Kevin, I'm not sure if you wanted to touch on this retaining wall, there was a question also, that this would be like a keystone retaining wall.
Exactly, it's again, just a small retaining wall to make up the grade change from the lower parking level up to the first floor. It's, still on the site plans, there's a slight grade change there. There'll be a complementary material and color to the facade of the building and to the, additional retaining wall around the side and rear.
It looked though like, that's fine, but it looked like that the front elevation, which you showed us. It looked like there was a retaining wall of the entire length. Of the.
Yeah, and that's where the question came up, that's why I wanted to just, touch on it, it's, yeah, this is shown, this is really all landscaping, all that white that you show there, but. One of the questions was, is the foundation wall gonna be, like exposed here, the concrete? And it's not, that we should have shown here, retaining wall, stone texture there.
I think that goes to the sections that you were talking about, we can update. A little more collaboratively with their building elevations with the wall elevations. I think with Joaquin goes all the way to the right on here. That line he was showing of where that retaining wall was is where it starts at the front of the property. And then as you start going toward the back, that, a little bit further to the right,
Yeah.
that wall starts creeping up. So again, we can work on the requested sections and show that to kind of clearly demonstrate what that, the full picture is with the grade change.
I know I should know this, but the lower right-hand corner of the slide, not this one, the one you were looking at before.
Oh,
There's sort of like, is there a bump out there? Is that like not part? Where the shrubberies are to the right? That section, is that just existing shrubbery that's preserved or?
Yeah, that was existing trees that were not
So your
disturbed.
property line is. So it goes right through that, okay.
Yeah, the property line runs right along here. This is all existing vegetation out in the right of way.
Gotcha.
If there's any line of sight issues with that, we've showed this tree line as remaining, the plan show site triangle coming from the driveway, that it's all that vegetation is out of it. But we're preserving some of that existing trees in that area.
And there's no grading in that area.
No, we're not disturbing it. We end up needing to grade it, then those trees are gonna come out as a result, but yeah, we're leaving that area alone.
And does that change the amount of your disturbance if you have to move that?
No, the disturbance is all offsite,
Okay.
anyway, so we're accounting for all the on-site disturbance.
There's a pretty big one. Nice. Okay, any questions from our board members or professionals for this witness? Okay, so,
No. Just a couple of quick ones if I may, Mr. Chairman. It's, maybe the council as well, but, again, my understanding as referenced and represented was that the 3 scattered sites, this is one of the 3, in combination, I just wanted to get reconfirmation that they satisfy the UHAC requirements with respect to bedroom distribution
Yes, correct.
and very low income requirements as well under UHAC.
Yes, they will, correct.
Excuse me, I'm gonna sneeze in a moment, but mind over matter. And all other applicable things, UHAC requirements, deed restrictions, 30-year.
All that'll be incorporated into the deeds for the property and all that is part of the approvals or conditions of approval. And then we require them to the agreements with fair share. Right. So that needs to be just stated in the resolution.
Yes, the applicant will
Fair share
comply.
get very upset.
We'll comply with those conditions.
It's 100% affordable, so there's no question.
Okay, thank you, nothing further, Mr. Chairman.
great. Okay, if there are any members of the public that have questions of this witness, please raise your hand. Okay. Question.
Oh, yeah, you don't have to be sworn in for questions, these are just questions, correct?
Yes, just.
And it can be of either one or both of the witnesses, just give your name and address, please, for the record.
Okay, well,
Maybe you might want to move a little closer, just so we can make sure wherever the microphone is, it hears you.
Okay, all right, thank you. My name is Carrie Hazelton. I live at 397 Brook Road, Bernardsville. And I didn't have any questions until the idea of growing ivy on the wall came up. So my question is, do you know that English ivy is an invasive species in New Jersey?
I do, I just said ivy is a.
Right, okay,
There's a
so
lot of.
my concern is that, we've got this borough and open space behind there, and I'd hate to see it migrate itself into that, so.
We might be able to come up with, a vine type of plant that's not invasive.
Not invasive.
There are some, and we've used them in other projects, and we
Right.
collaborate with.
And
developers.
to work towards native species.
Yeah,
where
we
possible.
always want to promote native species.
All right, thank you. Yeah, that was the thing that woke me up.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
No, not at all.
Thank
So
you.
non-invasive vine type.
All
plant.
species should be non-invasive.
Yeah, right.
All
It's a
species.
beautiful woodland
We
back
will,
there.
we will,
It's a little ivy, you got it.
we'll figure it out. There are plants that we do have natural growing in this region, vine type plants that actually flower.
Yeah.
And but we always promote native.
Any other questions for the public? Questions? No.
Thank you.
Thanks. And it's for you to.
I don't have a question, Mr. Chairman, but just a comment that I wanted to share with the board. The board, has dealt into many details of the site plan, as it should, if that's your responsibility, but I don't want the board to lose sight of the fact that this is a municipally sponsored 100% affordable housing project. And for the benefit of the newer members, there's significance that's attached to that. I just wanted to go through that really quickly. The borough has invested heavily into pursuing 3 scattered site 100% affordable projects. The borough has identified sites that it felt was utilized and that would be appropriate for this kind of development. And in fact, what has happened is that the borough has committed to these projects as part of the affordable housing plan that was approved by the courts and as part of the settlement agreement with Fair Share Housing Center. The real significance of this is as a municipally sponsored project, the borough is responsible and committed to fund any financing gaps that are associated with this. And that's very, so moving the project along and obtaining funding sources external to the borough is very important for the borough itself and to the taxpayers. The board needs to be, when you review these things, when you contemplate the application and you start thinking about conditions on it, you need to be cognizant of any features that may be cost generative, because Fair Share will be looking at that. We don't want to do anything to upset the judgments of compliance with post court. And my admonishment to the court, to the board, is we need to move this project forward. Just because I don't want to jeopardize funding, I don't want to jeopardize the housing plan. The borough owns the property, the borough selected the property. And I think that the applicant has agreed to address many of the concerns. The question for the deliberation board is to what extent we accept conditions and to what extent you want them to come back with another exhibit or two. There's been some discussion about shifting buildings and planning for the trailhead, if that. Again, that would be under the purview of the borough. It was proper for the board to get into that because it is a site planning issue. Mr. Simoff, you're absolutely correct. That needs to be delineated on the plan, which we're not there yet, but some resolution to that would be that we can create an avenue for the trailhead, and if it changes, they're gonna have to come back. But I just wanted to bring some context to the discussions. We got into the details, which you should, but we can't lose sight of the bigger picture, that this is part of the housing plan, that this needs to move forward. My understanding is that the monies are drying up, and the borough may be holding the bag on this. So when you have 100% municipally sponsored, it's a double-edged sword. You get the benefit of maximizing your count, because to get 26 units, you got to multiply that by 80% to get, if it were just an inclusionary development. So you're getting the big bang for the buck. But going back to
One fifth of the number of units that it would otherwise take roughly
right.
to generate that.
So
Hundreds,
you're sparing the borough a lot of development by condensing it into 100% inclusion, there's a cost to that. The borough has offered land, has purchased property for this, so there's been an investment. But the bottom line is that, as a municipally sponsored project, I will tell you from the regulations, that co-regulations, which by the way, we need to have a discussion about what's coming, because the legislature is now amending the Fair Housing Act in ways that may force me to retire. But the bottom line is that, this is something that needs to move forward, because the regulations require that any financing gap, in fact, the borough has adopted resolution committing to funding any project. So whatever money is not coming from the state, will have to come from the borough. Or the plan will have to be amended, and I don't know where you would go, because there are many great options out there.
And just to amplify and supplement, so the board does understand, and maybe I'll ask applicant's counsel, but my understanding is that a good portion of these three projects is intended to be financed through low-income housing tax credits, possibly through the Affordable Housing Production Fund. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, and my own personal knowledge is that that is fast depleting. Would that be accurate?
Yes.
Okay. And is it accurate when Mr. Zabo says that indeed the borough, as we understand it, has committed to financing the gap? So to the extent that money is not available, the taxpayers of the borough will be paying that, correct?
Correct.
And the funds continue to be depleting because the applications for 100% affordable housing, well, I should say, 100 affordable housing applicants continue to apply for low-income housing tax credits, and they've been distributed over time. It may even be less than 50% of what was originally set forth is available as we speak, and these applications are still ongoing, correct?
Yes, so the production fund, which was established last year, actually did provide an extra avenue to have funding that was separate from the low income housing tax credit, but that is on a rolling basis. And the HMFA, so that the Housing and Mortgage Finance Authority does establish board meetings. That schedule has been set, at least for the February board meeting, which this application will not be able to meet, but we actually have to have construction drawings in order to file or to obtain that funding. So we do have a bit of a ways to go, not just getting this approval, but getting through the resolution compliance and also getting to the point of having construction drawings to submit as part of that application.
So in broad strokes, I think what Mr. Vega was saying, correct me if I'm wrong, John, is that I'm sure you all understand this. There's a cost to the time that this takes to complete. And that cost is obviously to the taxpayers of the borough. And so that perhaps needs to be weighed against the benefit of taking that time vis-a-vis whatever might be accomplished in the interims, which could be a condition of approval, but instead would be doing more work, showing more to the board before the board decides it's comfortable enough with the information provided to render a decision. Obviously, there's a cost, but the cost is potentially significant. So I think that's important for the board to have to make a fair decision. You need all the information.
What this board has always done well, I think in my observations in the years I've been your planner, is that you've been able to balance that, the cost versus the site plan responsibility, making sure that the site works. So I think that we've done a tremendous amount of due diligence. There's still some unanswered questions, but we need to just bring it to some resolutions.
Can you write a letter to Jack expressing the same sentiment you just expressed to us? No, you, between the two of you.
Yeah, we can express to the borough attorney that, the board.
I would like a letter written to him from the planning board expressing this, exactly what you told us, that the timing and the delay to the responsiveness is costing potentially money.
And I'm certain our borough attorney is aware of that.
I would like a letter
But we'll certainly do.
as part of the record.
But the issue is, this approval was granted more than a year ago. So what's happened in the last year?
I think that's a fair question, but here we are.
I understand, but it's, you know, the changes and the modifications could have been done 6 months. You know, a few months after the approval. They asked for a quick response in order to get in the queue for financing, in which we did in October of last year. October of 21. 22.
22, yes, that's correct.
So from October 22 to December 23. You know, you can't put the onus on this board.
No, I'm not suggesting, Robert, I'm not saying that. You have a job and you're doing it. I just wanted to benefit the newer members context. I didn't want to lose the bigger picture for the details that we've been going into with all these acquisitions.
Irrespective of fault, as Mr. Zimba said, it's a truism. We are where we are. And it's important for the board to understand the way, what it wants. And the quantification of that benefit with the, conversely, with the quantification by way of cost that might be imposed on the borough as a whole, taxpayers of the borough, by virtue of that time frame. It's hard to do because you don't know necessarily the risk, but it's important for the board to understand that there are funds, they are depleting, and the gap, the borough is committed, as I understand it, to fill the gap.
Well, we have a meeting in 2 weeks. If the material we requested is submitted 10 days before the next meeting, fine.
Because you got
I think that's
Well,
a
let's
good,
find out.
a good
Let's
segue.
find out if we
A
found
good
it.
segue to direct the applicant as to what they might need to do and by when. Or request, I should say.
So they're on the hot seat now.
They've always been on that.
That still a borough one.
We need you to summarize, I think, right? So
Sure.
please do that. Thank you.
So a portion of my summary was actually just a broad sort of contextual overview, which we just heard from your board attorney and your board planner, but sort of overall, we are here, as we stated at the beginning of our application, for preliminary and final site plan and amended preliminary. This application being part of the housing plan was previously approved for preliminary only in order for us to be able to file for those low income housing tax credits, which was done in 2022. So based on the feedback that we received at the first meeting, we did prepare and submit, which was presented to you today, revised plans that in sort of an overview of the changes was one to lower the retaining wall originally proposed at 35 feet and now approximately 21 feet, and to shift the building both forward and to the west. I think those are the two most dramatic changes that were made to these plans. Otherwise, the unit count remains the same. Although the distribution of units changed, it does still overall, in connection with the other two scattered sites, comply with the UHAC requirements, so that remains in compliance. We are not in a position where we are requesting any variance related to the number of parking spaces. We're providing what is required despite the change to the utility room that you saw within the garage. We think that change was also a smart planning decision so that we don't run into a scenario where we have a hot box on the outside that would be placed, you know, in some location that we don't know at this point in time, but most likely visible from the street. So that will remain hidden by that particular change that was made. We are seeking relief for the front yard setback variance, which again was generated in response to the comments that we received during the preliminary application to lower the wall and see where we could relocate the building in a more optimal position to not disturb as much steep slope and to not have walls that could potentially be very difficult to construct. So overall, we feel that this is an appropriate and a good plan that is responsive to the comments that we received at the time of preliminary site plan. We do understand that the board has requested cross sections and also for us to identify a feasible path to connect to the trail. Although at this point in time, we don't have direction from the borough as to exactly what that will look like. We could propose a concept that shows where it could potentially be. We also heard this evening that there was a desire to see if we can reconfigure the parking and possibly shift the building back, which would result in a higher wall, although hopefully not a substantially higher wall, in order to gain that 10-foot strip of green area and landscaping on the west side of the parking area, which could be another path to potentially connect to the trail. So I think that as a team, we can certainly look at those things and we can identify areas that may work for a trail, but I do think that it'll be challenging for us to have confirmation from the borough, which would have to be via action of the governing body as to exactly where that trail is gonna be prior to having an approval from this board. So I think we can show those two, or maybe we come up with more options for how that trail can connect, but we'll not be able to necessarily commit to one or the other until we have feedback from the borough, including feedback as to whether or not they've been successful in approaching neighboring property owners, which is something that we were advised they were doing. So with that, I think we can provide that information, and I think it's really a discussion item for the board as to whether or not you want to see that ahead of time or move forward with it as a condition to be worked out with the board professional from borough.
Steve, did I miss something? Was I supposed to open it to the public for?
Well, the reason I didn't say anything was I didn't know where we were going here.
Okay.
If the applicant if the expectation is the applicant is coming back to address 3 items in 2 weeks, then you certainly can still open it up to the public for comment this evening, but there would be an expectation that would happen again at the end after those 3 items are addressed in 2 weeks.
No, I just
So
meant
that's what I was waiting.
forgot it. Like, was I supposed to open it for public comment before I asked her to summarize?
Well,
What's the right order?
the right order, the preferable order is to do it that way, but again, if we're not concluding this evening, then it's not preferable. We need to know whether they're done or
As
they're
long as I
not
can
done.
legally do it, I should.
You're okay so
So I
far.
can say, at this point in time, if anyone in the public has comments about this application.
Well, what my suggestion would be, Mr. Chairman, is we first make a determination as a board whether we're requiring them
You mean
to
a
come
straw
back to
poll?
address these 3 items or not, and give that information to the public, and then you can still open it up to the public regardless.
All right, so you want a straw poll?
That's one way, that's one way.
I'm just saying, there's 2 choices, basically, one which is to proceed with the application with stipulations, and the other one is to say the outstanding information is significant enough concern that that we need to carry
Yep.
the application. And so I would suggest since the board decides that, I would guess that we should straw poll the board.
We have an even number, but I don't want to be pessimistic.
Well, you never know.
Even number of board members. We've experienced that.
So, is that all right that we do that?
You know where I stand.
Yeah, I can guess. So, in terms of the straw poll, who's in favor of processing finishing the application tonight with stipulations? And of course, it'd be resolution, and so forth. And so who's in favor of that? Finishing the app with stipulations?
I am.
I am.
And one of the main stipulations being that they build in a place for path access.
They come back with the document, but
But are we also talking about shifting the building a little bit here and there?
That
Yeah.
was-
they were, but I think they were, yes, they were
That's
gonna
gonna affect the setbacks and the.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that there's more than 3 things being looked at. As far as I'm concerned, facade, things of that nature are all gonna affect where the wall is, what, things like that. And to put a stipulation in to say that they're gonna address it, it's been a year since they've been in front of the board, and this is what we have.
And I think a 2 week delay is not, is not significant.
That's okay, that's fine, that's why we're having this drop call, it sounds like 2 for the way. 1, 2 for the, do it now, and we have our 2.
I think I'd be comfortable, being that I haven't been through everything, I think I would be comfortable seeing a little bit more.
The 2 week, you're on the 2 week side, and then.
I agree.
you're on The 2 side, the 2 weeks thing, okay, it sounds like. That's the way it's leaning,
So, the applicant will follow up, so that in 2 weeks, the board can consider the cross sections, the path, excuse me, the access to the concept plan with one or more access routes to the trail, and the reconfiguration of the parking, shifting the building back and increasing the wall height, but getting a 10-foot wide path, which I guess is one of the options.
those are the major, I mean, I got all the other points in hand, so.
And,
Is there anything, that's what he's saying, is there anything you're saying that is potential needs to be, in your opinion, needs to be resolved?
So let's ask our professionals.
I'm satisfied with those, we have authority to Bob, if there are any engineering things that we might need.
Well, no, I think it's and to me, the access point, that was the 10-foot access point, and what impact does that have on the height of the wall?
Yeah, it's still big, okay. I would also just say, given that what we've seen, I would say double checking with the fire department's pretty important. They have strong opinions about EV. And whatever the angle is, work with them and figure out they're very cooperative, and just figure out what can be done.
I think we can certainly reach out to the fire department
Yeah.
and try to get that feedback. They don't know.
You don't know the
Yeah, we're gonna have all the answers everyone's
No,
looking for
they don't
in
know.
weeks, which is again, our hesitancy. I could draw a plan that shows a connection to a path, but again, without direction from the borough, we're just showing you something
No,
that.
he'll have suggestions. He may say, I want you to put this kind of ceiling panel in place.
And we will
You know,
absolutely reach out and try to get
The
that.
starting point of dealing with the borough. The concept. The access concept, because it hasn't gone anywhere up to now. So if you submit a proposal, then it's on the borough's
Oh, I don't expect.
timeline to respond to it.
Conceptual drawing for Jack. Basically.
Give them 3 choices.
is that something
Sorry,
that can be reasonably
Was there
turned
anything
around?
else that's really big that?
Again, a conceptual plan that shows a trail is something that's reasonable to turn around quickly. Section detail of the architectural elevations with a little more of a perspective view of the retaining walls, yes, that's something that we could turn around.
Yeah, that's
To have quickly. I don't think we're gonna have a resolution on this trail. And again, maybe I'm pessimistic, but we can put together options. Again, but I think all it is options that we're presenting to you that we still don't have a
right.
clear direction on, and I don't wanna set a false.
We wanna make sure it's
expectations
feasible.
2 weeks from now. Again, I think we have feasible paths, but I think all they are is what I've testified tonight is what will just be put on a plan that we still don't have a direction on.
We'll put it on a plan.
He won't.
I'll put it on a plan, I just don't want anyone to be expecting something.
There's a time pressure for financing and access to public money. Call tomorrow and say, okay, it's on your desk. I'm being naive because I'm new to this. But at a certain point, okay, now it's on you that my taxes are going, you know what I'm saying?
It's
So,
on the council.
yes. I don't mean you,
Here.
and then
No,
you go back and you say, we need an answer now, because this is the delay. Perhaps that moves things along.
Yeah.
Perhaps I'm
I
naive.
mean, the other point of it too is by presenting something that you think is feasible, you're then not getting an answer from somebody that is gonna present something to you that isn't feasible. So if you present a option or two options that you know will work, you're not gonna get feedback from somebody else that's some like harebrained thing that's not gonna be able to work. And now you have that back and forth. So if you give.
You mean the zip
options-
line over the top of the building?
Right.
Sorry, just want to be sure.
So again, being proactive could help.
So, Mr. Chair, if I can just wrap this up then, can that be provided in less than 2 weeks? And then our board professionals here can tell you how much time they need to review it in advance. I'm suspecting it may not be that long.
A hearing in 2 weeks to be submitted 10 days before.
I don't know that it has to be submitted 10 days before, these are exhibits, but maybe they can be submitted, I don't want to speak for our engineer and planner, they'll let me know if I'm wrong. 2 days, 3 days, 4 days before.
If the expectation the documents are being resubmitted 10 days prior, I don't think that we're gonna have anything that's significant to be able to comply with that, but I think having something that gives the board professionals more than 10 hours to look at something before a hearing, I think we can.
2 days, 3 days, more or less.
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
I don't think anything that we would be providing is causing a land review. I think it's something that they should be able to take a look at and provide.
So meetings and stuff,
We'll
Monday.
respond when you give it to us.
Yeah, and we'll get to you as soon as we can. We will send you something the day of the hearing and ask you to be ready to comment.
So ballpark in a couple days before.
Right, something.
And we can get that submitted also to Ms. Lardo and just so it can be posted and ready.
That'd be helpful. Thank you.
Well, so now, because the public might have something
Can still open up to the
constructive to
public,
say,
recognizing they'll have another
that would be
opportunity.
helpful for this. I would like to open it to any member of the public who would like to comment on this application. You can come up and be sworn in.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear to God or swear the testimony you're about to give us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. And just once again, give your name and address for the record.
Hi, Carrie Hazelton, 397 Minebrook Road. I don't think this is anything official, but I've been on this trail an awful lot of times, and recently there was a big blowdown of trees, so we had to do a little bit of a reroute. When I went up there to remark, I noticed that while we've had no official communication from Mr. Pigeon or the Borough Council, I believe that the Public Works people have set a new entrance, potentially up the hill, gradually getting us up to where the trail runs now from the western corner. And so, having noticed that, I said, let's just keep this open in case we're able to use it, you know, but it looks like they put some thought into it. Somebody has sent the Borough Public Works folks up there to make an idea of what could happen. So cogitation has taken place without any official communication.
Well, in action apparently, so.
And it actually is, it's very, very steep in its current location, and it would be very disruptive to the building because it's right in the middle of the building essentially. But at this corner, it's more gradual in terms of getting people in there. It could work better if we can get the access issues.
Did you say the west corner, or are you
Yes.
talking about up the trail or up the property?
The west corner of the property.
Okay.
So that if you were to walk in on the verge between the two properties there, that's where they cut it. And it gradually makes its way back up towards the middle of the property, but on borough land.
In
Yeah,
other words, they're already doing what we think the answer is gonna be.
they did something. They looked at it. It looks, to me, it looks feasible. And I'm not an engineer or a planner, but it looks, it would be easier for people to access the beginning of the trail from that corner than it is in the
Right.
current location.
Right.
And that's all I can really add, except to say that if we're gonna be adding that much population and that many new Bernardsville residents right down there, this is an amenity they're gonna wanna have. It's a way to get outside. They don't have a patio anymore, and to get into the woods and enjoy Bernardsville. It's beautiful. We're also gonna be taking out that dam right here, and we're gonna have a park. And so there might be more people that will be able to access from up top without driving, getting to what will be essentially a new park down here. So I think it bodes well for everybody in Bernardsville to try to keep it if we can.
So that's good news. You might wanna look at the site, but you understand what they're doing basically, but you might just wanna take a look. It sounds like they're reinforcing or experimenting with the concept that the easement could be on the west edge of the property, which is one of the scenarios.
Yeah, that's really it,
So,
yeah.
take a look.
Okay.
So.
Thank you.
maybe The message got lost. Thank you.
Johanna Wissinger, I'm Chair of the Environmental Commission, and, very simply, I was just.
Demonstration right here. See, that's okay. You swear to God, affirm that the testimony about the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Thank you, please proceed.
I simply would like to make sure that I get whatever decision is made, I approve of what, Carrie had said. So I think, I knew this was gonna be problematic, and I just want to also say, to the board members that I've been soft as an environmental commissioner in the affordable housing, and that's because I've had some appreciation of what Mr. Zabo and Mr. Warner just told us before, about position of the town. So, thank you, Denise. Thank you.
Okay, then I think the straw poll said we just need a motion to carry.
Yeah, if you'll give us an extension of time to act, if required to, well, I don't know where we are in our extensions right now. Frankly, I don't know if you know offhand, I would certainly make it to the end of the month. And we'll be carrying this, with your permission, Mr. Chairman, we'll be carrying this matter to our next meeting, which is January 25th.
Yeah.
At 7:30 PM at the same location without further notice, with that extension of time to act to be provided in writing as soon as practical.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, great. You're not going to get to the second application.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Council. And then technically, as we're moving through our agenda, I think we're going to be carrying another matter that has a similar applicant's name, not the exact same applicant's name. So maybe, Mr. Chairman, you can just give us real quick the name of that matter and the case number, and then.
The Brook Road Urban Renewal Association LP, it's the 18 Mount Airy Road, it's block 124, lot 1, zone AH6. It's the application number is SP 2438, adjusted preliminary and final.
And then, Mr. Chairman, if I may, it's my understanding, council confirmed, that council will give us an extension of time to act at the end of the month on that in writing. And in light thereof, then this matter, with the permission, can be carried without further notice. Also, that matter, if there's a new matter, can also be carried without further notice to January 25th at 7:30 PM at the same location. Again, we're assuming all applicants' team is available on January 25th for both these matters. Yes, yes, okay. Announcements have been made.
Okay. Pending applications, Denise, I think the first one has a typo at the end, but I'm just guessing. It says February 8th, 2023. Is that accurate?
Yes, it is. So what happened was they were going to notice, they did notice for the 25th, but there were errors in their notice. So they're re-noticing for the 8th.
But it says 2023 and it's 2024.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so the 23, yes, is an error.
Oh, okay. I
It
just
should be 20.
wanted to be sure, 2024.
Yeah.
And let's see this. Continue. So what's the story with that?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Well, it was continued to the 11th, which is tonight, but it's 55 Claremont. What's the story?
They asked for additional time.
Okay.
Is that equity?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, so we have an extension time to act through February, to fall
Yes.
correctly and they have that time and.
Okay, and that's status, right? So at
Yeah.
some point, next meeting, we'll know. Okay. So, back to AR Palmer.
Is that scheduled for February now?
It's scheduled for February 8th.
Now, February 8th, yeah.
I know this is a simple thing, but John Sabo,
Yes, sir.
you're preparing a document for them. Now you got a date, right? But you're preparing
A report.
a report.
Correct.
And you saw
I
me,
deemed them incomplete, so the clock's not running, but now the technical report's gonna come for the ordinance.
right, and you saw my note about,
I did.
okay,
So they're still incomplete, right?
They're incomplete, so the clock's not technically running.
And when are they, have they resubmitted for completeness?
Not that I, they're mine very, Stonefield did an excellent job preparing the drawings. The two items that we go on the top of my head are very minor. You've granted, checklist waivers for more technical things. And
So that would be on that we would deem it complete.
complete and then proceed for the job. That would be my recommendation, the board can do it at once. I stopped the clock, essentially, for that. Just we were dealing with all these other applications to trying to manage the overall.
But there were items that, they still have to submit a result, right? Or that, in order to be, they need waivers.
Yeah, that would have two minor, basically, right? Nonetheless, they're incomplete. Just so the board understands, the checklist, a completeness review, I call it a monthly review. It's very simple, it's either there or not. It's not a qualitative review, it's a quantitative. They hit all the boxes. And back in 1984, when they amended the land use law, they took away the authority to grant waivers from the administrative staff and gave it to the planning boards and boards of adjustment because they were complaining that the administrators were giving them, bad plans. So checklists were required to be adopted by ordinance. We're required to follow it. The board has the authority to grant or not grant waivers. Especially the first item of business on any application from the time of decision. The time of application. It wasn't so important the time of decision.
Time of decision, usually it was past tense. They changed the time of application.
Yeah, so you deem it complete, it's subject to the zoning in place at that time, at that moment, there never was. And that's important. So if they're incomplete, there's a case law that says, well, then, the time of change may not apply. Because you're incomplete, you have to submit a complete application. But that's been debated and litigated.
Dunbar case, but that's for another day.
Another day. It's late, so it's
See, I'm not the only one who likes to try to teach, land use law at 11:15 at night to the book.
it's my pillow talk with my wife, I'm talking about that.
We're off the record.
That's exactly my point.
so Steve,
Maybe we can get back to the agenda.
Steve, on this, I've got a quandary with this application. Because, Palmer,
Well, we shouldn't discuss the substance of any application that's been.
yeah, I don't want to discuss the substance.
Okay.
As we do with every application, to the dismay of the council perhaps, we optimize the applications. And in terms of what's appropriate, what we think is appropriate. And I have two choices. I can either request I think, and maybe I can't legally, request a work meeting to discuss optimizations or wing it during the actual application. These are substantive optimizations. And is the right, do you believe the right approach is to wing it during the actual application proceedings?
Well, certainly we can have we can address the substance of the
Beforehand.
application before, it has to be done when it's deemed complete, waivers granted if necessary deemed complete, and in an open public meeting, obviously, of course, and properly noticed, MLE well noticed, public hearing. At any point in time, before, during, or after, after compliance, but before and even during, board professionals can communicate with applicants' professionals. There's nothing wrong with that.
But the time's passed to have a work meeting, correct? That's not.
I think that ship has sailed.
Yeah, there's no work,
I
there's
just
no
wanna
work meeting.
confirm.
The land use law allows an applicant to request a conceptual, which
Right.
has to be noticed. Problem with that is it's non-binding,
Right,
and they've already filed an application.
right.
So-
I'm just confirming with you guys the
But I don't
process.
think having a hearing is winging. I think
Yeah.
You're soliciting, you're getting testimony, you're doing what you're doing, your due diligence, and you're optimizing. It's a great word. I appreciate that. That's a great way to characterize it. You're raising the bar because that's your expertise. That's why you're on the board.
Right,
That's why you are. But the whole idea is that they present, you're a judicial, quasi-judicial body, you're going to make comments like you've been doing.
right.
They're gonna have to modify the plan or suffer whatever consequences there may be if they feel that they don't have to. So it's
Right.
all- But what complicates this a little bit is it's a redevelopment plan
Yeah,
and compliance with the plan, which was approved by,
yeah.
and there's a
I know.
developers agreement with.
I just want to do the right thing.
I understand.
So, and your guidance is, the right thing is to just start having the plan process.
Proceed with the proceedings.
Yeah.
And again, the board professionals can communicate with professionals, but any part of the hearing process will take place in the
The
ordinary
normal
course.
course of actions is just
Open public meeting,
have your.
MLE well noticed.
To that other end, separate topic, but same application, do we think we need to consider, given the magnitude of the act, do we think we need to consider how the public will be able to participate?
My strong recommendation is that we continue to have in-person hearings as we have. I think we've experienced the reality that technology is not perfect, and that we human beings who operate the technology, like the technology, are not perfect. And there are forces out there that sometimes sabotage technology. We've experienced that, certainly. I think it makes sense to continue to have in-person meetings. I
don't want to be in a
know.
situation where, I understand where you're going. but
Yeah,
I don't want to be in a situation
hopefully
where
we can
the
accommodate the public
can't be
in this
held.
room. Hopefully we can accommodate the
Well,
public. in
that's
this
what
room.
I'm worried about.
And if we have reason to believe we can't, or we find out we can't, then we should have a plan B that Denise and others will work on as to where we physically can locate a larger number. If that is what is anticipated, or that is what is discovered.
I don't want to be in a situation where we call the meeting and there's interest in the meeting, and we end up with out of capacity, and we have to cancel.
No, absolutely, and I've done that many times before, and there's perhaps a reasonable expectation that we might need more room than we have here. So that's why it's good planning, no pun intended, that we, okay, pun intended, that we have the plan B at the
Plan B.
ready. But my
At least
recommendation
try to
is
have.
that be an in-person plan B. That would accommodate
A
more.
larger venue. Essentially, like hypothetically, the auditorium at the school or something.
How do you logistically do that?
You do a little legwork in advance.
You find out whether it's.
Oh.
Well, one indication,
Post, a special meeting just for community feedback?
But you have to
That's
allow
part of
the
the-
public to participate, to be in attendance
During.
the entirety of the proceedings, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but, we've done that elsewhere and.
Well, it's just happened to us, that's all.
Yeah,
I forget what happened was where it happened to us. Was it Quimby? What was it that,
Train?
where we overflowed, we had to cancel?
There was a.
Oh, we overflowed Zoom.
Yeah, we had,
It was
yeah, we overflowed Zoom.
Oh, we had it over Zoom.
Also overflowed when we were
Here.
I
Yeah, we
didn't
had something in the
know
high school.
It might have
that.
been
We were planning to have it at the high
it's
school.
redone.
I don't remember.
So anyway,
Yeah,
because it's happened, and because this is an incredibly important application, we just have to,
Well,
we have to plan.
But if you notice for this room and then you want to have it in an auditorium or a larger venue.
they'll have to renotice.
you have to
That's a good
renotice.
point, because
Yeah.
we've already noticed.
So you end up,
No, I understand that, but it was noticed for February eighth.
In this room.
Yeah, I mean, it's reasonable to expect that we, assuming that it's February eighth. It may make sense to see if indeed we have a problem accommodating.
well, maybe plan B is that if people show up, we'll say, look, we're intending to make a comment on it in person, or could you just listen to it streaming? So that they wouldn't have to actually.
No, you have to let them, show up. You have to accommodate.
Well, it's voluntary. It's like, do you want to make a comment? Okay, here's your seat, right? And that could happen. There could
To keep it simple, I think, do we have any idea how many people are in?
No.
That's, okay.
No,
So-
but we could, if they're objectors, we could say, please have your representative, which they will, all of them are not gonna speak. But if you're an objector, watch it, and watch your representative speak at the meeting. Don't bring 20 people here.
There is a group on Facebook.
Well, you know what, I'm gonna ask that I'm gonna recommend
I just need a plan.
that we not discuss,
This-
what's happening
in the detail.
outside with respect to
I
this
just want to
application.
avoid recurrence of something happening, which.
Unless we're
the public's
gonna
really-
pick a location for February 8th right now and have them renotice immediately, and they're gonna run out
And we're
of time. So as a practical matter, I think February 8th, we're gonna have it here.
Right,
And if we have an accommodation problem, we're gonna have to make that determination at that point.
can here be next door also?
I don't know how, that's gonna work unless our technology is such that you can put a,
You mean in the next room?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know.
Well, I'm just
Yeah,
offering thoughts.
Well, and I don't know how honestly the technology would work at another venue as well.
Well, they can set up Zoom anywhere.
let's, I think it's, at this point, it's best to proceed here on February 8th.
Right,
If there's an accommodation problem, we'll just have to address it, at that time.
well, I guess we should potentially let the applicant know that that's what we're doing, know that if there's no plan B, that, look, there is no plan B,
Well, I'm gonna suggest that we look into the plan B to begin, anyway, but we start.
but they
here on
have to be
February 8th.
canceled anyway. We're just saying
Correct, they'll carry it.
it's
and-
possible
And,
that we'll exceed our capacity and that their application will not be able to be heard.
yeah, but what Denise and others should do is whatever the venue is that we've used in the past, the auditorium at the school. Get that information, to contact the appropriate people, find out if it's available on our regular Thursday nights. And if so, which of those Thursday nights, and have that as a plan B, venue for in-person. And then, if we have that problem on February 8th, then we know where we're going on February 22nd or whatever the dates are. It's certainly also been my experience that, generally as, for the most part, as matters with interest proceed, over time, the audience, the number of public in attendance goes down, actually. But,
I don't know.
we'll see how it goes.
And if it hadn't happened to us, I wouldn't even be worried about it.
I don't know, it's a good idea to have that plan be in place.
We should at least say, yeah, we thought about it, but this is our position on how we're proceeding.
So Denise will get that information and contact the appropriate people.
Yeah, and if there's any other.
See if the auditorium's available.
That's the
for
most
dates that
obvious
avoid
one,
it.
it's quasi public, I guess, but there may be another, I don't know.
And this is the
Another-
high school we're talking about when you say the school.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it's the logical assumption.
We'll put that plan B in place.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you for both those points. I appreciate it. Sorry to carry us over even without a resolution.
Okay.
I think there's no communications, there's no need for executive session,
Not
correct?
this evening.